Hey my watchers, welcome. Today we are gonna see. What if Harry Potter was reborn as Soul Eater? Maka's POV. Why are we here on a Saturday? Cool guys like me don't go to school on Saturdays, grumbled my weapon partner Soul Eater. You don't show up to school on weekdays either, Soul. Anyway, Lord Death said he had an important mission for us, I snapped. We were indeed walking towards the death room on a Saturday. Whatever we're needed for better be important or Soul's going to get us in trouble with his big fat mouth. We entered the death room to find the rest of our team waiting for us. Black Star was doing one-armed push-ups while his weapon partner Tsubaki was trying unsuccessfully to make him stop. Death the Kid, Lord Death's son, was slumped over next to the mirror, crying and beating his fist against the ground wailing, "I'm an abomination.
I'm garbage. Asymmetrical garbage.
I deserve to die," while his weapon partners, the Thompson sisters Liz and Patty, were trying to calm him down. Lord Death looked up. "Oh, hello there you two. What's up?" We had all gotten used to Lord Death's absent-mindedness and informal manner a long time ago. As Kid always says, he won't give you a straight answer to anything and never takes anything too seriously. I stood at attention. "Hello, Lord Death. Scythemeister Maka reporting for duty." "Yeah," grumbled Soul. "Now can you tell us why the hell we're here on a Saturday?" Black Star stopped doing push-ups and Kid stood up. "Well, I just got a request from a headmaster of a school for wizards and witches up in England for some extra protection from kitchen eggs. So I signed up your team," said Lord Death cheerfully. We all burst into protest. Kid cleared his throat. "Dad, would you please tell us why we are being sent to protect a school of witches?" Yeah. Well, there are two types of witches. The bad kind that you guys hunt and the good kind. These guys are good witches. I don't believe this, however. If Lord Death says so, it must be true. He's the Grim Reaper, he's bound to have seen it all. "You're packed, right?" he asked. We all nodded. Sid had told us to pack for a year-long mission before we left. Lord Death clapped together his enormous hands. "Well then, off you go. Your plane leaves from Death Airport in 10 minutes. Soul jumped. "What? Are you serious? We have 10 minutes to get to the airport, which happens to be on the other side of Death City." Liz shrugged. "Kid wouldn't get on it unless it left at exactly 8 o'clock. Don't worry everyone. It's a private jet, so it will wait for you. Now off you go," said Lord Death. We all sprinted out of the room to get to the airport, since Kid, or Sam as we now have to call him, so as not to attract attention, still wouldn't get on the plane unless it left at 8 o'clock. 10 minutes later, we all sat in our luxury, black leather recliner seats in our private jet, panting like dogs. "Thank Pant Death Pant we's made it," I gasped. Black Star, being Black Star, was completely fine and he had his face pressed against the window. "Yahoo! We're going to England." Tsubaki smiled, then turned to me with a worried look. "Hey Maka, do you think we'll see Free there again?" I frowned. That was a possibility. I'd say not. The school is called Hogwarts and it is isolated from the rest of England. Muggles, or non-magical people, don't even know it exists, said Kid immediately. A voice came over the intercom. "Hello Lord Death's son and friends. Thank you for flying Death Airlines. We should be landing in Brighton Airport in 2 hours. Have a pleasant flight." I settled back into my chair and looked out the window as the sleek, black jet lifted into the air. A school for witches? I don't know. But I have a feeling that this is going to be a very long extra credit lesson. Soul. Hey, what makes Tsubaki so much cooler than me, huh? I'm too cool for Soul. Help. This is so uncool. Tsubaki. Soul. Soul's POV. We stepped off of our jet and tried to find our way out of the airport. Kid flinched. "Hey, what's wrong, Kid?" asked Black Star. Kid squirmed in discomfort. "This place is an abomination. It deserves to die." Liz put a hand on his shoulder. "You can get away from the asymmetrical airport quicker if you can tell us which guy holding a sign is for us, Sam." Kid scanned the crowd and finally pointed at a red head holding a sign saying all of our names on it. "Finally, the great Black Star needs to leave this dump," shouted Black Star. "We must be lucky today since no one paid him any attention."
Maka.
Chop. Kid lead us over to Redhead while Maka dragged a dazed Black Star by his legs. The Redhead spotted us. "Are you from the—" he glanced at the sign. The DWMA? Kid nodded. Are you in the order? Redhead shushed him. Keep your voice down, mate. This is a Muggle airport. Dude, what's a Muggle? I said, rolling my eyes at Maka, who was still trying to drag Black Star over to us. I'll go help Maka, said Tsubaki with a small smile and left to help her pick up Black Star, leaving me alone with the Redhead, Kid and the Thompson sisters. Redhead offered Kid his hand. I don't believe I properly introduced myself to you kids. My name is Mr. Weasley. Sorry about shouting at you earlier, but Muggles aren't supposed to know we exist. After staring at his hand for a second, Kid shook it. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Weasley. My name is Sam Drake, he said coolly. Mr. Weasley looked intimidated. His eyes fell on me. I smirked at him, showing off my shark tooth. He recoiled instantly. Yeah, intimidated is good. Sup, the name's Sol Alburn. I told the man as Tsubaki and Maka returned with Black Star in tow. Maka said me and Black Star had two noticeable names, so I have to play the brother and Black Star is Tsubaki's cousin. Maka glared at Mr. Weasley. Sol, he's a witch. She whispered to me. Well, no wonder Kid can't stand him. Don't worry, this is probably one of the good ones Lord Death mentioned. I muttered. Maka didn't look convinced, but she shook Mr. Weasley's hand coldly. Maka Alburn, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Weasley. Tsubaki smiled and shook his hand, pleased to meet you. My name is Tsubaki Nakatsukasa. Black Star stomped up to Mr. Weasley and pointed at him. Remember this, mister. I am the great A.S.
Maka chop.
Maka knocked him out again. Sorry about that. His name is Ethan Nakatsukasa. My name is Liz Thompson and this is my sister Patty Thompson, said Liz. Mr. Weasley clapped his hands together. Well then, now that we're all acquainted, let's get a move on, shall we? And with great reluctance, we followed him towards the exit. A bunch of people were standing in lines to go through what looked like. Oh, hey kid. I muttered to him while Mr. Weasley was busy talking to Tsubaki. How the hell are we supposed to get through the metal detectors? Corner of this page. Until next time, Harry somehow manages to find a door and leaves Willifier 123. On with the show. Harry's POV. Ron and Hermione burst into my new room while I was reading The Prophet. Hey Harry. Fred and George say there's going to be a big order meeting tonight. You want to see what the fuss is? Said Ron, grinning evilly. I stood up. Of course I do. Let's go. Hermione nodded. Yes, I mean, isn't it obvious? It must have something to do with what happened this morning. Don't you remember? Mr. Weasley came sprinting downstairs with his shirt on inside out.
Mr. Weasley?
Your shirt's on inside out, said Hermione as kindly as possible. What? Oh, thank you, Hermione. I'll have just a bit of toast, Molly. I have to go pick up our guests from the airport. Six Heads looked up sharply. What guests, Dad? Demanded Ron. I can't speak now, Ron. I have to go before I'm late. And Mr. Weasley dashed out of the house, his shirt still inside out. Ron turned to his mother. Mom, why are we having guests? Mrs. Weasley put down the pan of eggs she had been cooking. Well, Dumbledore's accepted a couple of transfer students from a school in America. They had nowhere to stay until school started, so Dumbledore said that they could stay here. How many? Asked Ginny. 7. Ron, Hermione, Harry. When they arrive, I'll expect you 3 to tell them a bit about Hogwarts. Help them get used to the idea of going to a new school since they'll all be in your year, said Mrs. Weasley. Maybe it's the new kids, said Ron once we had met up with Fred, George and Ginny on the landing. Fred shushed him. Shush, it's Dumbledore. I peeked over the banister. So it was. Dumbledore crossed the hallway to Tonks, who took his cloak. Everyone's waiting for you, the meeting's about to start, came the slightly muffled voice of Tonks through the extendable ear that George had slipped into a convenient hiding place behind the coat rack. And the guard? Asked Dumbledore. They've just arrived, responded Tonks as they entered the meeting room. After you, George, whispered Fred. The pleasure's all mine, Fred, George whispered back. He feed the string of the extendable ear under the door. Now listen, ordered Fred, holding up the extendable ear for us. The muffled voice of Lupin came out of the ear. We have invisibility cloaks, but it's becoming difficult to maintain a proper guard. Isn't that their job? Asked Tonks.
No, growled Moody.
They have to stay at the school. If any students are lost because of the kitchen, Moody stopped talking. We leaned in closer to the ear. It sounded like someone was talking, but he or she was too quiet for us to hear. Arthur, why were you late? You were supposed to be here half an hour ago, said Kingsley. Well, we had a bit of a problem with metal detectors at the airport, said Mr. Weasley sheepishly. That was when everything went wrong. Crookshanks, Hermione's enormous, fluffy orange cat, found the cord of the ear. No. Bad Crookshanks, scolded Hermione as Crookshanks ran away, the extendable ears in his mouth. Just then, the door to the meeting room opened. Run for it, hissed George. We didn't need telling twice. Ron, Hermione, and I dashed to our room. Hermione sat cross-legged on Ron's bed, while Ron and I sat on my bed. Well, what do you think? Asked Ron. They're guarding something, said Hermione flatly. And to top it off, looks like there's going to be new security at Hogwarts. She looked at me. Do you have any idea what this guard might be? How am I supposed to know? I'm the one who's been kept in the dark all summer, remember? I said angrily. Mrs. Weasley opened the door before Ron or Hermione had a chance to answer. Boys, Hermione, it's time for dinner, and our new guests are here, she said before closing the door to go get Ginny and the twins. Hermione's POV. We made our way downstairs to the kitchen. Most of the order had left after the meeting, but Lupin, Tonks, Bill, and Mundungus had stayed behind for dinner. They weren't alone. 6 of the strangest-looking teens I had ever seen in my life sat around the table with them and Sirius. Mrs. Weasley came back with Ginny and the twins. The one sitting in the shadows leapt up and ran over to Fred and George. You are beautiful, he said energetically, his face shining. Fred and George looked slightly taken aback. Pardon? Asked Fred. One of the girls who had been sitting next to him stood up and dragged him back to his seat before coming back to stand in front of us. Sorry about that, that's Sam Drake. He's a little OCD with perfect symmetry, she said apologetically before holding out her hand to me. Hi, my name's Liz Thompson. I shook it hesitantly. I've seen some strange things in the past 4 years, but this is probably the most random out of all of them. Liz went on to introduce the rest of her friends to us. The blondie over there is my sister Patty Thompson. She pointed to a girl wearing identical pants, shoes, red top with white tie, white jacket and cowboy hat that Liz was wearing. Patty didn't look up from what she was doing, which happened to be repeatedly slapping Mundungus on the back. Get off. Was a poor bloke lick me down Firthis. Mundungus mumbled, half drunk, half asleep. Patty was laughing loudly. Ah, this guy's funny, sis. He sure is, Patty, said Liz, shooting us a just go with it look. Anyway, you've already met Sam, she continued, pointing to Sam Drake, who had fallen asleep in his chair. That's Maka Alburn, she said, pointing to a relatively normal-looking girl with blonde hair in 2 pigtails on the sides of her head. She was helping Mrs. Weasley finish dinner. She did not look up, nor did she say hello. Over there's her brother, Sol Alburn. Liz pointed to one of the scariest-looking teens I've ever seen. Sol leaned back casually in his chair, studying us intently. He had spiky white hair that fell across his forehead. But the scariest part was the eyes. They're blood red, whispered Ron, sounding absolutely terrified. Sol smirked, showing off what looked like a shark tooth. Sup, he said lazily. Liz continued, oblivious to our stares. This is Tsubaki Nakatsukasa, she said, pointing to a tall, pale girl with black hair done up in a fancy-looking loop and blue eyes. She smiled and bowed slightly in her seat. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet all of you, she said softly. Finally, the one over in the corner's out cold since he couldn't keep his mouth shut, but he's Tsubaki's cousin Ethan Nakatsukasa, she said, pointing to a boy with spiky blue hair slumped over in the corner. Dinner's ready, everyone, called Mrs. Weasley. Maka dear, could you help me put the dishes on the table? Yeah, this chapter was pretty redundant, but introductions are necessary. Keep reviewing and I'll update again. Until next time, kids POV. Oh man, that was great, said Black Star, leaning back in his chair only to be smacked over the head with a ladle by Mrs. Weasley. Sit up straight, Ethan. I don't get how they can be so calm. We're surrounded by witches and wizards, Maka muttered to me. Our goal is to protect Harry Potter. We might as well give him the benefit of the doubt. However, giving witches the benefit of the doubt has never worked out well for us in the past. Don't let your guard down, I whispered to her while studying Harry Potter. He looked up at me. This guy seems perfectly normal to me, other than the fact that he cheated my father when he was a baby. I smirked at him. He turned and whispered something to Ron Weasley. Being a Grim Reaper, I have better hearing than most ordinary people. Hey Ron, there's something abnormal about Sam Drake. I think he might be a Death Eater, Harry whispered. Maybe. Don't worry about it now, mate. He hasn't done anything wrong. Ron whispered back. Before Harry had a chance to retort, Sirius Black leaned back in his chair. You know, Harry, I'm surprised. I thought that you'd be asking us all questions as soon as you got here. I did, Harry retorted angrily. But nobody answered me. They said I'm not in the order. They're quite right, said Mrs. Weasley, standing up suddenly. You're too young. Sol snorted. I raised an eyebrow at the witch. We were made temporary members of the order. Most of these teens are around our age and yet they're too young? No, too inexperienced, that's it, I thought bitterly. I tuned out of the argument for a while. I have more important things to think about, like for instance how we're going to be able to perform magic. Father said we would be able to when the time arrived, but I need more proof than that. One slip-up could blow our entire cover at Hogwarts. Liz poked me sharply. What? I said indignantly. Then I looked around. Everyone was staring at me. Pay attention, Sam, she said pointedly. These guys are talking about something you might want to hear. I leaned back in my chair. Well then, let's hear it. As I was saying, said Sirius. The Order has been out searching for Voldemort. Most of the people sitting at the table flinched, and for anyone who will believe us. He looked at me. For instance, the headmaster of your school. Dumbledore won't tell us his name, but he's given us his full support. Something else that you kids might want to watch out for, said the werewolf Lupin. A strange man has been sighted with Death Eaters. Our sources say he is working with Voldemort. Everyone flinched again. There it is again. If you don't mind me asking, why do you keep wincing whenever someone says Voldemort? Asked Sol. You know something, Sol, I'm not really sure. The name's supposed to be tabooed, but some people, myself, Sirius and Harry included, don't believe this, answered Lupin. Oh please, out of all the things in the world you could be afraid of, you pick a name? That's so stupid, said Maka incredulously. Instead of being afraid of a name, you should focus on Voldemort himself. A name doesn't do anything. She's right, said Harry. I never asked your opinion.
Maka snapped.
I know I'm right, but that's not the main issue here. Yes, said Tsubaki. Lupin, can you perhaps tell us a little more about this man who's been sighted with Voldemort? Like a name or a description? I added. Lupin passed me a picture. This is him. We managed to get a clear shot of him, which I'm amazed by. We never have that much luck. I never heard the rest of his sentence. My hands shook as I stared in shock at a man I had prayed I would never see again. Maka looked over my shoulder and gave a horrified gasp. Oh my God. It's Noah, she stuttered. Harry's POV. Lupin's head turned in Maka's direction. You know something about this man? His name's Noah, and he's probably one of the most dangerous enemies you could hope for, said Liz darkly. No. That's impossible, said Sam, scowling at the picture in his hands. How is he here? He's dead. How do you know that? Asked Hermione. If this Noah guy has been sighted, he's obviously alive. Hermione, this doesn't concern you at all. Stay out of it, said Liz venomously, glaring at her. But yeah, we know all about Noah. He carries around a magic book called the Book of Iban. The book has all of the 7 deadly sins in it. Whoever comes in contact with it goes completely insane. Sam stood up. If you all will excuse me, it's been a long day. I'd like to get some rest. I'll come to, said Patty. And they disappeared without another word. The rest of us sat in horrified silence. Liz, Maka, all of you, if you don't mind me asking, how do you know all of this? Said Lupin finally. Didn't you hear me earlier? This doesn't concern you at all, Liz spat. Maka, Sol, Ethan, Tsubaki, you coming? And the rest of them disappeared upstairs. More silence followed. Well, this proves it, said Sirius at last. Voldemort is even more dangerous than the first time. That's enough, Sirius, said Mrs. Weasley. The children have heard enough to satisfy their interests for now. Off to bed with the lot of you, she cried. We didn't need telling twice. I could tell that the others were just as terrified of Noah as I was. Ginny, who hadn't been allowed to stay downstairs with us, was waiting in our room when we got upstairs. Well, what happened? She said. Of course, leave it to Ginny to get right to the point. We told her about Noah. That's terrible, she said. But that's definitely not the whole truth. The transfer students must have some sort of history with this Noah guy. Hey Harry, said Ron excitedly. Maybe the Book of Ibn is the weapon they're guarding at the Department of Mysteries. I don't think so, I said slowly. From what Liz said, Noah carries the book with him. And I don't think a follower of Voldemort. Oh, would you three quit it? You heard what Maka said down there about it being stupid to be afraid of a name. Anyway, I don't think a follower of Voldemort would be hiding out in the Department of Mysteries. Before anyone could answer that, Mrs. Weasley's footsteps came clumping up the stairs. Run, I told Hermione and Ginny. They didn't need telling twice. They sprinted up a secret set of stairs that connected their room to ours. Ron and I flung ourselves into our beds just as the door creaked open. The door closed again, and I could hear the footsteps of Mrs. Weasley making their way upstairs to check on Hermione and Ginny. Ron and I didn't really feel like talking after that, so I lay awake in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling. Oh please, out of all the things in the world you could be afraid of, you pick a name? That's so stupid, said Maka incredulously. Instead of being afraid of a name, you should focus on Voldemort himself. A name doesn't do anything. She's right, said Harry. I never asked your opinion.
Maka snapped.
I know I'm right. End of flashback. I wonder why she hates me so much. Maybe it has something to do with their pasts. But how is this Noah guy connected to them? And with these happy thoughts, I drifted to sleep. Will Noah come after Maka and her friends? Why is he working for Voldemort? Keep reviewing and you'll find out. Sol. Do I have to? Maka's POV. Come on then, called Tonks, who had somehow transformed herself to look like a strict old lady. She herded the 13 of us, along with all of our trunks and animal cages, towards the curb of the road and stuck out her right arm. What's she doing? I muttered to Sol. Before he could answer, a bright red, triple-decker bus zoomed into existence and skidded to a halt in front of us. Patty leapt backward into Fred to avoid being hit. Oopsies. Sorry, George. I'm Fred, he said while untangling himself from the luggage pile he'd landed in. Oh, sorry, Fred, Patty giggled. What is that thing? I asked to the group at large. Dunno, it's intense, said Sol, scowling. He's probably still mad that kid's making him wear fake teeth to hide his pointy ones. I would be too. Fake teeth hurt. The doors opened to reveal a scrawny-looking man holding a rolled-up newspaper. Welcome to the night bus. I'm your conductor, Stan Shunpike. I hope to— Yes, now get a move on. On the bus with the lot of you, said an irritated Tonks, herding us onto the bus with a disgruntled Stan Shunpike. Oh, the bus is covered in a random assortment of chairs. Kid's not going to like this. I'm Sol, Sam, Liz, Patty, and I can take those chairs over there in the back, I said quickly, and before Tonks could answer, Liz and I were dragging Kid over to a chair in the back. Patty and Sol followed us while Black Star and Tsubaki went with everyone else upstairs. Okay, Kid, can you keep down about the randomly assorted chairs until we get to King's Cross Station, or am I going to have to blindfold you? Said Liz. But Kid wasn't freaking out at all. He hasn't said anything since dinner last night, Patty told us. I glanced at Kid. He was holding his face in his hands. I sat down next to him and put a hand on his shoulder. Hey, it'll be okay. We won't let Noah get anywhere near you this time, right guys? I said, glaring pointedly at Sol, Patty, and Liz. They all nodded. If that bastard comes anywhere near Hogwarts, he's got an express trip to hell waiting for him, said Patty, perfectly seriously. Kid took his face out of his hands. Thank you, everyone. But that's not what I was worried about. Noah collects anything that interests him. I figured that much out when he kept saying, "You're not worth collecting." To every opponent he fought, I heard him say, "You're not worth collecting," when I was inside the book. And now he's working for Voldemort. So what you're saying is he'll try to collect Harry, said Sol. Kid nodded. And we can't let that happen, no matter what, he finished as we all climbed off the bus at King's Cross. Okay, Maka and the rest of you follow Harry, watch what he does, said Tonks once we'd reached platform 9. Harry took a deep breath, then ran straight at the pillar between platforms 9 and 10. Has he gone nuts? I asked Sol. Then Harry disappeared through the pillar. The mouths of every DWMA student dropped open. Sol shrugged. I've seen weirder. Black Star charged towards the pillar at breakneck speed while pushing both his luggage cart and, against her will, Tsubaki's. His shouts died down once he went through the pillar. Tsubaki raced after him. Wait, Ethan. I need my trunk. I looked at Sol. You ready? Sol smirked at me. What do you think I am? A chicken? Of course I'm ready. And we barreled through the pillar to a hidden platform. Beautiful scarlet steam engine train loomed in front of us. Come on, guys. Hermione and Ron have to go sit in the prefect's basically class president carriage. We need to go find seats, said Harry. We didn't really have any other options, so we followed him onto the train. Harry slipped into a compartment and we followed him. Kid was back to his old self again and was lamenting about the fact that all of the compartments were on one side of the train. It's an abomination. He moaned while Liz patted him on the shoulder. At least he forgot about Noah. I muttered.
Maka?
I looked up. There were two unfamiliar-looking kids in this compartment. Ginny was looking at us expectantly. Oh, hi there. My name's Maka Alburn. The name's Sol Alburn.
Sam Drake.
Liz Thompson. Patty Thompson. Tsubaki Nakatsukasa. The one. The only, Ethan Nakatsukasa. I tuned out to the others talking about Quidditch or something after a while. I wonder what using magic is like. I got a wand with all of my other school supplies from Sid just like the others. Will I get to learn how to spit fireballs out of my mouth? That'd be cool. My pleasant daydreams were rudely interrupted by a louder, more obnoxious than Black Star, blonde-haired boy entering the compartment. What do you want, Malfoy? Snapped Harry. Manners, Potter. Blondie sneered. Or I'll have to give you a detention. Because unlike you, have been made a prefect. Yeah, and you, unlike me, are a git. So get out, said Harry coolly. All of us except Luna Lovegood and Neville Longbottom laughed. That was when Blondie noticed us. His ugly face broke into a leer. Well now, who are you? Black Star was up in his face before he could blink. Who am I? I'm your worst nightmare, he hissed. And your nightmare's gonna become reality unless you get your greasy little butt out of here now. And he kicked Blondie and his two goons out into the hall. Blondie got up. I could see him trembling from all the way back inside the compartment. Just wait till my father hears about this. He sniveled before running for his life. Kid snorted. Now why would I want to hang around until his father arrives? His father's bound to be twice as disgusting as he is. That broke the tension. We all burst out laughing just as Ron and Hermione came into the compartment. What's so funny? Asked Ron. It's a long story. I told him in between giggles. You see, and I told them what happened while we all changed into our robes. A lot of staring. Wet carriage rides and sorting later. Sol's POV. Well, we all got put in Gryffindor. Just like Lord Death said we were going to. I muttered under my breath to Maka on our way out of the Great Hall. Yeah, she muttered back before turning to Harry. Listen, Harry, Professor Dumbledore wants us to meet him in his office really quickly. You guys go on ahead. Fine, said Harry. Password to the Gryffindor portrait holes Mimbulus Mimbletonia. Then they left us at the 4th floor. Fizzing Whizbee, said Kid, looking bored. The gargoyle jumped sideways and we climbed up the stairs to the old dude's office. I'm not gonna bother explaining what it looked like. That would take too long. The old dude looked up from whatever he was doing when he saw us. Welcome. Now then. First things first. I'm assuming that the names you are using right now are not your real names, am I correct? We all nodded. I'd like you to introduce yourselves to me, said the old dude. Maka stepped forward. My name is Maka Alburn. I'm a 2-star Scythemeister. I might as well introduce myself. I slipped off those damned fake teeth and grinned at the old dude, showing off my real teeth. Sup, Death Scythe Soul Eater here. I'm Maka Scythe until I get assigned to Africa or something. Saying Death Scythe in front of my name is getting annoying. Listen up, old man. You're looking at the one who'll surpass God someday. The one and only great assassin Black Star. Oh yeah, I'm a 2-star Dark Arm Meister. My name is Tsubaki Nakatsukasa. I'm Black Star's dark-armed weapon. I am Death the Kid. It would be much simpler for everyone if you just called me Kid. My father is Lord Death, the one you hired us from. I'm a 2-star gunmeister. I'm Liz Thompson, said Liz. I'm Patty Thompson, said Patty. We're Kid's twin pistols, they said together. Now that we've gotten that sorted out, we can discuss plans. During the day, you will keep your roles as normal students. Night you will be assisting the teachers with patrolling the castle. If you sense a Kishin egg in Hogsmeade or the Forbidden Forest, I give you full permission to leave the castle and hunt it down. You will be allowed to use either the Quidditch pitch or the Forbidden Forest to train, whichever you like. Any questions? Said the old dude. Understood. We all said at once. One more thing before you go. I'd like at least one of you to keep a close eye on Dolores Umbridge. The pink-toed lady that made the speech at dinner? I asked. Old dude nodded. You got it, I told him. Okay then. That's all I have to say. Normally you'd go start your rounds of patrol now, but since it's your first night here, I'd say you should get to know your roommates. Off to bed. I sighed in relief. I do not want to do patrol duty right now. I'm starting to develop this crick in my neck that gets worse whenever I'm in weapon form for too long. Mimbulus Mimbletonia, said Maka once we reached a painting of one of the fattest women I've ever seen. We split up as me, Kid and Black Star went up to the boys' rooms while Maka, Tsubaki, Liz and Patty found the girls' ones. So much for meeting our new roommates, they're all asleep. I snorted. Alright, everyone pick a bed, said Kid. Once we all had beds, one by one we fell asleep. I'm trying to get through the boring stuff so I can write some epic action-packed fight scenes. Oh well, I suppose I'll get there when I get there. Keep the reviews coming, people. Harry's POV. Come on, Harry. Is there any proof that Sam's a Death Eater? He's only 15. Ron argued once we had entered Professor Umbridge's room for double defense against the dark arts. I suppose so, I admitted as we sat down. He's creepy, but being creepy isn't a reason to be a Death Eater, said Hermione. Good morning, class, greeted Professor Umbridge from the door. A few mumbles of good morning answered her. Now, that won't do. Let's try again, shall we? Good morning, class, she said in her breathy little voice. Good morning, Professor Umbridge, we all responded. Sol, who was sitting next to me, rolled his eyes and continued looking out the window. Wands away, class, and take out your copies of Slinkhart's book. Read Chapter 1, Basics for Beginners, Umbridge instructed. I opened my bag and pulled out the book. After a while, I realized that I'd been staring at the same spot on the page for about a minute. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ron idly flipping the pages of his book, and Hermione, who hadn't even gotten her book out of her bag and was staring at Umbridge, her hand in the air. At first Umbridge simply ignored her, but once the rest of the class had lost interest in their books and were watching Hermione, she had no choice but to call on her. Yes, Miss Granger, Professor, said Hermione. Well, Miss Granger, do you want to ask a question about the chapter? Asked Umbridge sweetly. I've already finished the chapter, said Hermione. Then proceed to Chapter 2, said Umbridge. I've already finished that too. I've read the whole book, said Hermione. Well then, Miss Granger, if you've read the book, can you tell me what Slinkhart says on counter-jinxes in Chapter 14? Asked Umbridge sweetly. He says that counter-jinxes are just a fancy way of says normal jinxes to make the caster feel better about him or herself. He also says that counter-jinxes are only supposed to be used in a dire emergency and are the only way to defeat your opponent. And I forgot what she says here. Somebody correct me if I get it wrong. Very good, Miss Granger, Umbridge admitted begrudgingly. But I disagree with him, said Hermione. Counter-jinxes are very useful. Umbridge raised an eyebrow. Oh? And what would you say a counter-jinx could be used on Miss Granger? I stood up. Oh, I dunno, maybe Lord Voldemort? I said angrily, realizing too late that that was probably not a smart move. Detention, Mr. Potter. And 5 points from Gryffindor, said Umbridge crisply. Sol pulled me back into my seat. Back down, dude. Making a big scene isn't gonna do you any good, he whispered. I bit my lip, then nodded. Maka raised her hand. Yes, Miss Alburn? Isn't the whole point of this class to teach us that sometimes you can't run away from evil and you need to fight it? She asked. Wherever did you hear that, Miss Alburn? Asked Umbridge. From the man who nearly tore me apart 2 years ago. she said darkly. Silence. Detention, Miss Alburn. Tonight, my office. You too, Mr. Potter. Class dismissed. Maka's POV. I can't believe that worked. Now that I have detention, I can skip out on patrol duty. Sol's a death scythe. He can take care of himself for one night. And B, I can keep an eye on Umbridge and Harry at the same time. Nice one, said Sol as we made our way downstairs to lunch. You did do that on purpose, right? Asked Liz. I nodded. Do you really think that a model student would get detention unless it was on purpose? I said teasingly. Anyway, you guys go ahead. Sol and I have to go get a book out of the library, I said to our group since Harry, Ron and Hermione were there, and I dragged Sol to an empty classroom with a large mirror leaning against the far wall. We forgot to report to Lord Death last night. You keep watch at the door, make sure nobody comes anywhere near this classroom, I told him. Yeah, I got it, he grumbled as he walked over to stand next to the door. I breathed on the mirror and traced the numbers with my finger. 42-42-564. Whenever you want to knock on death's door, I mumbled. The mirror surface changed into an image of Lord Death in the death room. Hello, Lord Death. 2-star Scythe Meister Maka reporting in, I said.
Hiya, Maka.
How's the mission going? Said Lord Death cheerfully. The mission's going fine so far. Everyone else went to dinner and Sol's standing guard at the door. I responded politely. Not anymore, said Sol, appearing next to me. No one's coming, standing guard's too boring for a cool guy like me. I rolled my eyes at him. Whatever. Anyway, Lord Death, we apologize for not reporting to you last night. We forgot. But we've learned something that you might want to hear, I said. The Order of the Phoenix has confirmed that Noah has been sighted alive. And he's working for this Voldemort guy who's apparently a big deal here, said Sol. Lord Death frowned. This is interesting news indeed. Leave Noah alone for now, we can't afford to worry about him when he's being protected by Voldemort. However, Maka, Sol, I'm asking you, this as his father, please keep a close eye on Kid. I don't want him to have to go through insanity again. I smiled. Lord Death, unlike my good-for-nothing papa, really is a very kind and caring parent. Of course we will, Lord Death. Kid isn't going anywhere, I promised. Great. Can we go now? I'm starving, said Sol. Yeah. Bye, said Lord Death, back to his usual carefree self. After dinner, Sol's POV. This is Death, the Kid reporting in. Everything's quiet over in Hogsmeade, said Kid over our wireless communication radio earpieces. This is Black Star. Nothing on our end, reported Black Star, who was guarding the viaduct, a fancy-looking bridge. This is Soul Eater. All clear up here, I said into my earpiece. This is boring. I'm stuck patrolling the astronomy tower. If Maka were here, we'd be up in the air. Then maybe I would have more room to fight if a Kishin egg shows up. But no, Maka had to be the smart one and land herself in detention along with Harry. Why didn't I think of that? Sol, there's 3 Kishin eggs heading your way, said Black Star urgently. I looked down. Yup, 3 of them climbing up the walls. That's gross, I complained. They look like giant spiders. One of them sprung into the air, straight at me. Damn it, I cursed, jumping into the air to avoid the spider's attack. I summoned a blade on both of my ankles and kicked through the spider, evaporating it instantly. One down, I said, turning around to face the other 2 that were charging at me. 2 to go. Man, these things are fast. I grumbled. One of them jumped straight at me, summoning a blade on my right arm. I slid underneath the freak's stomach and sliced it in half. The third one was smarter than the others. It shot a web of spider silk at me. The fact that I had absolutely no room to leap out of the way didn't help my situation at all, and I got tangled in the stuff instantly. Shit, I cursed. Where's Maka when you need her? The spider pounced. Panicking, I let loose for a second. Blades all over my body snapped out, piercing the final spider instantly. The blades disappeared as I flicked off spare pieces of spider web and picked up the red soul of the spider I had just killed. Down the hatch, I joked and swallowed the soul and the other 2 after that. Technically, I'm a death scythe now and I don't need to be collecting souls anymore. But they still taste good. And I couldn't just let a perfectly good snack go to waste, could I? I turned on my earpiece again. This is Sol, I've taken care of the Kishin eggs. Nice work, Sol, said Kid. Our shifts are just about over now, you guys can go get some rest. Liz, Patty, and I will give Dumbledore our report. I'm cool with that, I said, turning off my radio. Black Star and I slipped into our dorm room hoping that everyone would be asleep. We were sadly mistaken. Harry stood up from his spot on the windowsill as soon as the door closed. Where've you been? He demanded. None of your business, I answered coldly. Now if you don't mind, I'm going to bed. Black Star followed, strangely quiet for once. All of the school stuff, I thought while staring at the roof thing on top of my bed. Not cool, and with that, I fell into a dreamless sleep. Thanks to everybody who's reviewed so far, I have managed to upload a new chapter every day. I'll try to keep it up if you keep reviewing. Until next time, Attack on Hogsmeade. Kid, where am I? Kid, can I leave now? Kid disappears through skull-shaped portal. Maka's POV. So Maka, how'd detention go last night? Asked Tsubaki as she dodged Patty's well-aimed kick. I rubbed my hand. She made us write lines on our hands with our own blood. I admitted. What? Shouted Black Star, completely losing concentration and allowing Kid's punch to hit him in the face. Yeah, don't worry. I reported it to Dumbledore earlier today. He said not to worry about it too much. I reassured them as I blocked Liz's kick. We were currently on the Quidditch pitch, getting in some training before my first night of patrolling. Liz, Patty. Time to transform, said Kid. They obliged, changing into two sleek silver guns. Kid turned to the lone target at the end of the Quidditch pitch and fired. Bang! 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 Hey Kid, can you keep it down? Somebody's gonna hear us, I warned. Don't worry, Maka. I put up a noise-canceling charm on the Quidditch pitch. You can train as loudly as you like, said Kid, having reduced the target to splinters. I grinned. You ready to go, Soul? Without answering, Soul transformed. I twirled him around before pointing him at Black Star. Hey Black Star, Tsubaki, you guys up for a fight? I challenged. You got it. I need something to let off steam on, answered Black Star. Tsubaki. Right, said Tsubaki, transforming into her ninja blade. Black Star and I darted forward and our blades clashed. You've gotten better, said Black Star 5 minutes later once we had to stop to go to patrol duty. Hey, you're not so bad yourself, I admitted. Rematch tomorrow? You're on, Black Star said. And with that, I kicked off the ground with Soul to start our first night of patrol in the air. Kid's POV. Hey look sis, it's snowing, giggled Patty. Sure enough, large white flakes were falling softly onto every surface in Hogsmeade. What I want to know is why we got stuck with Hogsmeade, grumbled Liz. You know perfectly well, Liz, that everyone else has been assigned to posts outside as well, I retorted. Still, I've got an uneasy feeling about this village, I'll give you that. That was when I felt it. We've got company, I said. Let's go, Liz. Patty. Yeah, said Liz. Right, said Patty. The first wave attacked. Around 10 of them. I smirked.
Reaper combat art. Mortals instants.
Then I let loose with Liz and Patty, leaving nothing but 10 floating red souls behind. After I'd collected all of them and slid them into the ammo compartment on each of the girls, I sensed another 20 approaching fast from behind. Kid, watch out, shouted Patty. Too late. The first one slashed its claws at me, cutting my clothes and tearing through my skin. Kid, shouted Liz and Patty at the same time. TCH. Damn it, I said, and I shot Patty straight at the thing's forehead, making it explode on contact. We need to get you out of here, said Liz, changing back into her human form. You idiot. What are you doing? Stay in your weapon form or they'll get to you, I warned. But, don't worry, I said, managing a small smile. The cut didn't reach my bone, I'll be fine, I reassured her. Now transform. She nodded, turning back into a gun. I just hope what I told her is true, I thought while turning to face the other 19 opponents who were waiting for us to make a move. Hey kid, they look like Death Eaters, said Patty. I nodded. Yeah, we can't let them get into the castle. You girls ready? Let's go, Soul Resonance, we shouted. I raised off the ground as Liz and Patty transformed into larger, more deadly guns. Liz, Patty, start out with a simple death cannon. Let's see what these guys can do, I told them mentally. Thank God the curses the Death Eaters keep firing are bouncing off of Liz and Patty. Right, they answered. Noise level at 0.3%, said Liz. Black Needle Soul wavelength fully charged, said Patty. Firing in 3, said Liz. 2, said Patty. 1, said Liz. Firing now, said Patty. Death cannon, I said, and fired at the group of Death Eaters. The good news is I managed to vaporize 2 of them. The bad news is one of them had managed to get behind us and attack. Gaha, I said as the Death Eater's punch came in contact with my back. Crack! That was the sound of 2 of my ribs snapping. "Hey kid!" cried Liz, who had been hit along with Patty and was back in her human form. The Death Eater appeared over her where she lay on the ground. "I'll feast well tonight," said the Death Eater, taking off its hood. "Oh crap, it's a werewolf. Don't touch her." I growled at the werewolf. "This is bad. There's still 17 of them left and I can't move. The best I can do for now is make sure that Liz and Patty get out of here." "Liz, transform," I said. "Desperate times call for desperate measures." Thankfully Liz understood what I was trying to do and transformed. With great difficulty I blasted 8 shots from Liz into the air. I threw Liz back over to Patty, whose unconscious body was draped over a pile of rubble. "Gidno!" cried Liz, turning back into her human form. I managed to turn my head to look at her.
I'm sorry, Liz. Patty.
"But this is the only way to keep you both safe," I said softly. The werewolf's ugly face came into my blurring vision's view. "Looks like your aim could use some work, Reaper boy," he snarled while picking me up by the head with his enormous claw. "Just end it already," I prayed. That was when everything became 8 times worse. Now Fenrir. This boy's the son of death himself. The Dark Lord could use a boy like that, said the one voice I had prayed I would never hear again. One of the Death Eaters took off his hood. "Hello, kid. It's been a while since I've seen my collection all together again," said Noah. He opened the book fastened onto his hip. "Liz, Patty, I'm sorry, this was the only way," I told them. The last thing I heard was Liz screaming my name. Then everything went black. Meanwhile, with Sol and Maka's POV, "Do you really think learning how to play Quidditch will help us with our flight training?" I asked Sol as we started our 5th lap around Hogwarts, me riding Sol. "Yeah, what's the difference?" "Still flying," said Sol. That was when it happened. 8 shots fired into the sky. "Oh my god, that was Kid," I said while turning on my earpiece. "Black Star. Kid's fired his distress signal. Sol and I are heading over there now. You go too and step on it." "We're on our way," said Tsubaki over her radio. "Turbo gear, Sol," I shouted. "You got it," said Sol. His wings grew larger and we zipped towards Hogsmeade, only to hit an invisible wall. "Aya!" I screamed as I was knocked off of Sol. "Maka!" shouted Sol, zipping back underneath me so that I landed on top of him. I spotted Black Star at the edge of the viaduct, pounding at the invisible barrier. "Damn it! Why can't I get through?" he shouted while ramming himself against the barrier. I mirrored him, pounding with all my might against the barrier even though I knew it was useless. I could feel it. Kid's soul wasn't in Hogsmeade. It had disappeared as soon as the Death Eaters had shown up. "Damn it!" I cursed, tears streaming down my cheeks. "Kid!" That was when 2 dark shapes appeared in the distance, walking this way. Once they got closer I realized it was Liz and Patty, but no Kid. Liz and Patty crossed through the barrier and I saw they were both badly injured. Liz was carrying an unconscious Patty on her back. She collapsed as soon as she crossed the barrier. "Liz!" we all shouted. Sol and Tsubaki having transformed back into their human forms. "Kid, Noah, not again," she stuttered before passing out. I picked her up and put her on my back. "We need to get them up to the castle and report to Dumbledore." "Tsubaki, can you get Patty?" Tsubaki nodded and picked up Patty. "Hold up. Aren't we even gonna try to go after Kid?" demanded Black Star. "Black Star, we don't know where Kid is. Liz and Patty are hurt. We need to get them medical attention and try to plan a rescue party for Kid," I said, tears falling fast onto my Hogwarts uniform. Black Star bit his lip. In Dumbledore's office, Tsubaki's POV. "I see, this is very disturbing indeed," said Professor Dumbledore. "You have my permission to arrange a rescue party for Kid whenever you are ready. But what troubles me more, are you serious, old man? What could be more important than rescuing Kid?" shouted Black Star. Professor Dumbledore looked at him sadly. "I am truly sorry about Kid, and my apparent lack of concern. It does concern me very much when one of my students is in danger. However, I am simply wondering what Death Eaters were doing in Hogsmeade in the first place. Security will be tightened at Hogwarts, of course. I'll get Professor McGonagall to take over Kid's post in Hogsmeade. I will also inform the rest of the teachers of Kid's disappearance. They will help you in any way they can. I bowed to Professor Dumbledore. Thank you for your help, I said. Then Sol and I dragged Blackstar and Maka off to the Gryffindor common room, having already dropped off Liz and Patty at the hospital wing. Dillagrout, I said miserably, and the portrait hole opened. Come on, Maka. Sleep deprivation isn't going to help Kid, I said while helping her up to the girls' dormitory. Once I was in bed, I curled up into a ball and started to cry. Maka having done the same thing in the next bed over. Kid, where are you? I thought miserably as I fell into a murky, dreamless sleep. This chapter depresses me, but it sure was fun to write. Keep the reviews coming, people, and I'll update when I finish the next chapter. Harry's POV. I'm telling you guys, I heard gunshots a week ago coming from over in Hogsmeade. It's got to be why security here's tightened so much. I insisted to Ron and Hermione at breakfast.
Hey Maka, Sol, Ethan, Subaki.
Good morning, said Hermione, smiling. Where are Sam, Liz and Patty? I haven't seen any of them in class for a while, she said cheerfully to the four depressed-looking Gryffindors. Ethan glared at her. Hey now, no need to be rude. She was just asking, snapped Ron. Sorry, Ron, we're all just a bit worried. Liz and Patty were attacked by a giant spider that came out of the Forbidden Forest. They're okay, but they're in the hospital wing right now. As for Sam, he had to leave for a while. Family emergency, said Subaki glumly. That's terrible. Can we come visit Liz and Patty? Asked Hermione. Yeah, we happen to know a giant spider that lives in the forest. If they can describe it, I'm sure we could prove to Hagrid it. What was that for? Said Ron angrily, Hermione having just stomped on his foot. That's okay, guys. But when we tried to visit them, Madame Pomfrey said that Liz and Patty aren't allowed to have any visitors yet, so I don't know, said Maka, forcing a smile. Come on, guys. Ethan forgot to return a book to the library, and Madame Pants said that she'd blame me if he didn't bring it back. And so, the four of them left again. Hermione turned back to look at us. There's definitely something going on with those four, she declared. Ron nodded. Look, Hagrid just got back from the Giants 2 nights ago. I vote we pay him a visit tonight and ask him if Aragog or any of his children ever leave the forest. I whispered. Agreed, said Hermione and Ron at the same time. Sol's POV. Lord Death isn't going to like this, I said glumly. Maka and I had just promised Lord Death last week that we'd keep kids safe. Then he goes and gets himself captured again. Don't remind me, said Maka softly as she pushed open the door to the hospital wing. We figured that Liz and Patty should be here when we tell Lord Death, since they were the only ones who saw what happened. Hey guys, how are you feeling? Asked Subaki. Better, thanks, said Liz. Hey sis, can we go look for Kid now? Said Patty. Well, they both looked fine to me, but I didn't say that in case Maka would hit me. The Thompson sisters were both sitting up in their beds, looking kind of depressed. Maka sat down in a chair next to Liz. We were going to report to Lord Death now, she said. Since you two were there, I figured you should be there when I tell him what happened to Kid, said Liz. Are you sure? Asked Blackstar, who was being strangely quiet. Liz nodded. Absolutely, it was my fault, so I have to do it. I swore to myself that I wouldn't let Kid do something stupid and get himself hurt. I failed big time. At that moment, Madame Pomfrey came out of her office. I've made sure that no one will be able to hear you, dearies, she said, smiling warmly at Maka. Thank you, Madame Pomfrey, said Maka. Madame Pomfrey went back into her office and Maka breathed on the large foot mirror Madame Pomfrey had provided. 42-42-564 Whenever you want to knock on death's door, she murmured while tracing the numbers with her finger. The fog disappeared and was replaced with an image of Lord Death and the Death Scythe currently in charge of North America. Maka's dad, Spirit Alburn. Hello, students, said Lord Death. Normally nobody can read his facial expressions since he wears a mask. But even Blackstar would be able to tell, Lord Death is not in a good mood. Lord Death, said Liz from her bed, which happened to be almost directly in front of the mirror. We have bad news. Kid has been abducted by Voldemort, I know, said Lord Death. It was all my fault, sir, Liz blurted. Kid explained to us when we were resonating souls with him. He purposely let himself get captured so that Patty and I could get out of there safely, and I didn't do anything to stop him, she explained. Once Kid fired his distress signal, we did everything we could to reach them, Lord Death. But there are protective enchantments around the school, we were trapped inside, I said. Very well, you don't need to explain to me any further. I watched the whole thing. The important thing is that Kid isn't dead, and you protected the students beautifully by stopping the Death Eaters' attack on the village, said Lord Death to Liz and Patty. Continue following Dumbledore's orders. I assume you've already started a rescue plan for Kid? Yes, said Maka automatically. I have an idea as to where Kid might be. It's a strong possibility that he's at Draco Malfoy's house. His family's really rich, and they were big supporters of Voldemort the first time around. I'm working on a truth-telling potion that should help us confirm that Kid is at the Malfoy's place. But I'll need another week to finish it. Kid might not last that long, said Black Star. I was the one who fought him when he went insane. I don't think he'll be able to come back a second time if he sees that thing again. What thing? Asked Tsubaki. I have no idea what it was. But I think we saw insanity itself in there, said Black Star darkly. If Noah is indeed working for Voldemort, tell the Order of the Phoenix everything you know about the Book of Iban. If Voldemort does have that book on his side. Lord Death started. That's bad news for these guys, I finished. Sol, ever since Justin's betrayal, we've been down one death scythe in Europe. I'm temporarily putting you in charge of Europe until I can find a substitute. Don't worry, you'll still be able to finish school at the DWMA. But again, you're the temporary death scythe in charge of Europe, said Lord Death randomly. I scratched my head. That was kind of random, don't you think, sir? Lord Death tilted his head. Silence. Yeah, I suppose. Well, he's back, I thought sarcastically. Maka, your papa loves you. Keep up the good work, said Spirit. Again, what's with all the randomness? 1 minute we're talking about Kid. Then this. I watched Maka torturing her weird dad until Lord Death shut him up with a Reaper chop. Black Star started laughing and everyone else followed suit. It's official. They're all crazy, I thought, twitching my eyebrow. Kid, you'd better hold out until we get there. I don't think any of us can deal with this randomness without you. Kid's POV. I woke up to a punch in the face. Finally, the brat's awake, sneered a woman 5 inches away from my face. She looked like she made a habit of sticking her fingers in electrical sockets. She backed up and called to someone outside of my still blurry field of vision. Lucius, the Reaper brat's awake, she called. I used the opportunity to kick her in the head since my legs were free. HH, she shrieked, flying backward across the room. I smirked, then took the opportunity to assess where I was. I was locked in some sort of dungeon. Oh, how unoriginal, I scoffed. I was cuffed by my wrists with the same white-hot cuffs as before, molded out of the temporary page of the book. My captors had left my legs free. Bella, what happened? Said a new voice. This guy looks extremely familiar. The Reaper brat kicked me, Bella complained. Do I know you? I smirked, realization hitting me. I'm positive I've seen that greasy blonde hair before, Mr. Malfoy. Lucius Malfoy picked up my leg. You won't be needing this now, will you? And he squeezed. Snap! I doubled over in pain, Malfoy having just broken my leg. Bella stuck her ugly face right next to me again. What's wrong, Reaper brat? Why don't I hear your screams echoing off the walls? She hissed in pleasure. It's official. I've only been conscious for a minute, and I already know that this woman is more sadistic than Professor Stein. Why, for leverage. My dear boy, do you have any idea what the Dark Lord could gain with a bargaining chip like you? The son of death himself, Malfoy mused. Where's Noah? How is he still alive? I demanded. What do you mean, how is he still alive? Said Bella, back in my face again. You know, I'd appreciate it if you would get out of my face, or I might just use my good leg to kick you again, I threatened. And I'll break your other leg, snapped Malfoy. Now then, what do you mean, how is Noah still alive? Well, usually when someone asks how someone else is still alive, that means that the person he or she is talking about is supposed to be dead. I explained patiently, smirking at the look of frustration on Bella's face. I know Noah's dead because I was the one who killed him. We'll have to inform the Dark Lord of this later. I heard Malfoy whisper to another blondie who had just entered the room. This one was a girl, probably his wife. I realized, that must mean I'm in the Malfoy's house. I just hope Maka and the others can figure that out. Bella punched me in my gut, causing a fresh wave of pain. I retched blood, making sure to do it all over her fist.
Bella shrieked.
Hey, I'm not the one who decided to punch the guy with the broken ribs in the gut, I gasped. Bellatrix. The Dark Lord won't be happy if the boy is dead before he can be useful to us, snapped Malfoy. So Bellatrix is her full name, what a stupid name. Thankfully they decided to leave me alone in my prison after Bellatrix had finished using me as a punching bag. I leaned back against the cool, rough surface of the wall behind me, trying to catch my breath. I couldn't help another coughing fit. The white-hot cuffs made from a page of the book burning my skin weren't helping me deal with the pain either. I stopped coughing and took 3 deep, shuddering breaths. Don't worry, you just need to hold out until someone comes to rescue you, I thought miserably to myself. Liz Patty, if you can hear me then that means you're not dead. I'm at Draco Malfoy's house. Rescuing me would be appreciated before I'm used as a bargaining chip for Voldemort. Once I had finished mentally signaling an SOS, I fell asleep, the image of Liz and Patty's smiling faces still fresh in my mind. Again, a lot of this chapter was pretty dark. And again, it was still fun to write, review, and maybe I'll upload the next chapter. You can turn into a what? Harry's POV. Hagrid, open up, called Hermione. It was late at night. Ron, Hermione, and I were standing outside the door of Hagrid's hut. The door opened. Hello there, you three. Come in, said the beaming, still bloody face of Hagrid. He was holding the slab of dragon meat again. We obliged and entered the cozy little hut. Hagrid, do Aragog or any of his children ever come out of the Forbidden Forest? Asked Hermione. Hagrid looked startled. No, not as far as I know, he replied. Why? What happened? The 3 of us exchanged a look. Tsubaki had lied to us. Something was definitely going on with those guys. Hagrid, do you know anything about the 7 exchange students from America? I asked. Hagrid thought for a moment. Well, they're schools in the Nevada desert in America. Saul, I know, he said hesitantly. You're lying, Hagrid, Hermione said coolly. Look, the less you lot know about those 7 the better, said Hagrid. Those 7, they're probably the most dangerous people at Hogwarts, Ferrus. They're also the Order's last hope to keep you lot safe. What do you mean they're the most dangerous people here? Hermione asked instantly. A familiar look came over Hagrid's bloody face. The look he gets whenever he's realized that he's said too much. I shouldn't have said that, he mumbled to himself. I shouldn't have said that. You 3 should go now. I don't want to get you in trouble fair being out here this late. Just don't get involved with those transfer students from the DWMA. Hermione jumped slightly. The what? I shouldn't have said that. I definitely shouldn't have said that, he mumbled. Without another word, Hagrid shooed us out of his hut. After that we really had no choice but to head back up to the castle. What do you reckon? Asked Ron once we'd crossed about half of the grounds that lead up to the castle. The DWMA? That sounds annoyingly familiar. I'll have to look it up tomorrow, mused Hermione. You know, Ron said slowly. I bet that Maka and the others are the special guard we overheard the Order talking about. Hermione looked at him strangely. Ron, that was brilliant. Always the surprise tone with you, complained Ron. They started bickering again. Why they were arguing in the first place was beyond me. I heard the faint sound of metal moving, like a sword being unsheathed. Hold on a second, guys. Did you hear that? I asked, stopping Ron and Hermione in their tracks. Hear what? Asked Hermione, wand out. Out of nowhere, 3 monsters tackled each of us separately, sending all 3 of us flying. What the bloody hell are those things? Shouted Ron, his wand out now. I took out my wand as well. The 3 of them each wore masks of varying sizes and shapes. The first one, which happened to have an enormous claw for a left hand and scuttled around like a spider, lunged at me. Stupefy, I yelled, Ron and Hermione chiming in their own curses at the creature and its companions. But, nothing's working, shouted Ron. Impedimenta. Still nothing. The dark, humanoid-looking one in a black trench coat with a hook for a hand and a grinning, blue mask just kept advancing and managed to knock Ron over. Ron! Hermione screamed. I ran at the thing, determined to ram it through. This is just like some crazy horror movie. Where are the teachers? They're supposed to be patrolling the school, I thought frantically as I fired hex after hex at the thing that had Ron pinned down. Harry, get back, warned Hermione, and just in time too. I leapt out of the way of yet another flash of metal. The creature that had Ron pinned was thrown backward and growled at the dark figure that walked up to stand next to where I crouched on the ground. Our savior looked up.
Emaka?
Stuttered Hermione. Maka ignored her, twitching her arms slightly, which supported a large object that was still hidden in the darkness. When Maka twitched her arm again, the object was revealed, bathed in the moonlight just as Maka was. Hermione gave a small scream. Maka had an enormous, very deadly-looking scythe slung casually over her shoulder. She finally spoke. Jack the Ripper, your days of murder are over. She glared at the creature. Your soul is mine, she said, twirling her scythe until it came to rest, quivering inches above the rippling grass. Maka and Jack the Ripper each darted forward. Their blades clashing, Maka blocked 3 slashes from his hook, and then she swung her scythe, cutting Jack the Ripper in half. Jack the Ripper dissolved into shadows, leaving a floating red, there was really no other way to describe it, blob behind. Harry, watch out, warned Hermione. The second one, the one with the yellow mask and the huge claw for a right hand that scuttled around like a spider that Hermione had been holding off, was charging right at me. Confringo! I roared. Still nothing. I ducked just as the monster swung, and was stopped dead in his tracks. I looked up. Did Confringo work? No, it wasn't my spell that had stopped the thing in its tracks. A chain was wrapped around the monster's claw arm and left leg, preventing him from moving forward. I turned my head. Ethan Nakatsukasa held the ends of the chain, 2 sharp, gleaming silver blades at the ends of them. We leave our spots for 1 minute and all hell breaks loose. Ethan grumbled. I'll take care of this one. Maka, back me up. Patty should be taking care of ugly number 3.
Maka nodded.
Right, and she dashed forward, blocking the monster's swinging claw, then leaping backward to allow Ethan a chance to attack. Why does Maka have a scythe? Asked Hermione to no one in particular, still dazed. Why does Ethan have a chain scythe? She asked again. So that's what that thing's called. Ethan jumped into the air, and then slashed down, disintegrating the second monster, leaving another red blob behind. Good job, team, shouted Ethan. A grin plastered across his face. No, there's still one more, said Maka, turning. As usual, she was right. The third one looked distinctly female, with long dark hair, a striped jumpsuit, a red mask, and a set of fangs and claws. This one was battling Ron. Ron, get back, ordered Maka. He didn't need telling twice. Ron flung himself out of the way just as the creature made a swipe at his chest. Bang! The creature straightened, a new hole steaming in her shoulder. Hee, you're mine, said an all too familiar voice. Patty leapt out of nowhere, delivering a powerful kick to the monster's head. Patty leapt backward. Then she pointed a normal, muggle gun at the thing. Patty, stay back. That thing's too dangerous, said Hermione, just as appalled as I was that Patty was taking this thing on with a gun. Maka held out the stick of her scythe to stop Hermione from rushing in to jinx that thing into a jelly. Stay out of this if you know what's good for you, she said in a low voice. Hermione didn't argue. Maybe because the monster was shying away from Patty, most likely because Maka had a giant scythe in her hand. The monster charged at Patty. Patty jumped into the air, did a flip, and landed behind the thing, her gun at its forehead. Bang! The monster screamed, before dissolving into black shadows just as its companions had, leaving behind yet another red blob. I straightened and walked over to the 3 of them, Ron and Hermione in tow. I think you owe us an explanation, I said as bravely as possible. Hagrid was right, these guys were emanating the feeling of danger. My instincts were screaming at me to run as far away as possible, but instead I stood there, too terrified to move as Maka put a hand on my shoulder. Silence, come up to the common room with us, she said at last. We'll explain everything. Before we go anywhere with you, do Sol, Tsubaki, Liz, and Sam know anything about this? Asked Hermione. What are you talking about? We're right here, said Liz's voice from out of nowhere. Patty handed me her gun, grinning like a madman. I stared at it for a second. Then the reflection of Liz flashed across the surface of the silver gun. Hey Harry, she said, grinning. I jumped, dropping the gun in the process. The gun glowed pink before turning into the annoyed form of Liz Thompson. Was it really necessary to drop me on the ground? She huffed. Why you, BB but she, and spluttered Ron.
Maka siged.
Patty, take care of the souls, she turned back to us. Come on, our shift's just about over now. I'll explain everything in the common room. Then maybe you guys can help us out with our problem. In the Gryffindor common room, still Harry's POV. I'll repeat myself now. I think you owe us an explanation, I said. Maka gave another sigh. Sit down, she ordered. We obliged. Well, what do you want to know? First of all, said Hermione. Where are Tsubaki, Sol, and Sam? Sol, Tsubaki, if you would, said Maka. Her scythe began to glow, enveloped in a blue light before transforming into Sol Albern. Sol smirked at us, showing off a complete set of pointed fangs. Hey, he said casually, as if we were meeting for lunch or something. Then Ethan's chain scythe began to glow as well, this one giving off a bright yellow light before turning into Tsubaki. Now look, we can explain this, started Tsubaki, but Hermione interrupted. But where's Sam? She asked, oblivious to the fact that 3 of our friends had just evolved from highly deadly-looking weapons. Every single one of their faces darkened. That's the thing, you see, we don't know, said Maka quietly. We'll explain that later. Do you have any other questions? Yeah, I put in. Tell us the name of your school, where it is, and what exactly you're taught there. Sol burst out laughing. Dude, are you seriously stupid enough to think we'd tell you all of that? He snickered. Why, you little Sol, cut Ron off. Whoa there, dude, remember you're attacking the guy with fangs who can turn into a weapon, he reminded Ron. And to prove his point even further, with a flash of blue light, he had turned his entire arm into the blade of a scythe. We can answer most of your question though, he continued. We go to Death Weaponmeister Academy, or the DWMA in Death City, Nevada. What we're taught. He grinned, showing off his fangs. We're taught to hunt down witches and sorcerers. Hermione edged away from the group of them. Now I remember I read about the DWMA a while ago. You guys have been hunting the Council of Witches since it was formed, she said, sounding absolutely terrified. I shot a look at Ron. These guys are serious? But that would explain the uneasy feeling I've been having around them. They hunt down witches and wizards. No wonder Hagrid told us to stay away from them. Hermione cleared her throat. So, I'm assuming that Maka, Ethan, and Patty are the Meisters here? Almost, and I suppose I should tell you this now, started Maka. My name isn't Ethan Nakatsukasa, said Ethan. It's Black Star. A star? Choked Hermione. As in the infamous clan of assassins that was annihilated by the DWMA, that Star clan? What are you trying to say, Hermione? Asked Ron, oblivious. She's saying that Black Star is from a famous clan of assassins, I told him as patiently as possible. Ron turned to stare at Black Star, who was sitting in his chair, his feet propped up on the table and wearing a small smirk on his face. Feel free to bask in my glory. It's not easy being around a star as big as me, he boasted. Is he always this conceited? I muttered to Tsubaki. Well, yes, she muttered back. But really, he's a very nice person. Black Star took off his blazer and rolled up one of the sleeves of his shirt until his whole shoulder was visible. Yes, I see it now, said Hermione, staring at the star-shaped tattoo on Black Star's arm. You really are a member of the Star Clan. Yeah, but that's not the point right now. Sure, Maka and I are Meisters, but Patty's a weapon too, explained Black Star. I'm a gun, just like my big sis, said Patty proudly from her spot on the floor where she was coloring. Sam's our Meister or Weapon Master if that's simpler for you to understand. Together we're his twin pistols, said Liz. But since he went missing and whenever he just isn't there, we're each other's Meisters, she explained, scowling out the window. And my final questions, I said, deciding to ignore Liz's strange behavior. What happened to Sam? Does it have anything to do with why Liz and Patty were in the hospital wing? Is Sam even his real name? Asked Hermione softly, shooting me a look. I nodded. We couldn't trust these guys anymore. Maka shook her head. I suppose we should fill you in on that now, she said, looking at the floor. His name isn't Sam Drake, and we think he's in a lot of trouble right now. She looked up at me. His name is Death the Kid, son of Death himself and a Grim Reaper just like his dad. Liz and Patty have confirmed that he's been captured by the sorcerer Noah and a werewolf by the name of Fenrir Greyback. And he's being held hostage at Malfoy Manor. Voldemort plans to use him as a bargaining chip to gain control of the Ministry or any other large organization with power. That's why we need your help. Ron, Hermione, and I shared a look. I turned to Maka. We're in. Hermione gets some answers. Kid's POV. I woke up in darkness. Every inch of my body aching in pain. Where am I? I wondered. I couldn't really figure that out since I was frozen. I couldn't move an inch. I'm going to assume that I'm back in the book, I decided, looking around at the endless nothingness above me. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Such perfect symmetry in nothing. No. I fought against it, but it was still coming back. The insanity that had nearly destroyed me the first time, I could feel it pressing in on all sides. Somebody, Liz, Patty, Maka. I don't think I can take much more of this. With a blinding flash of light, I was outside the book in my prison cell at Malfoy Manor again. So, hissed a bone-chilling voice from the doorway. The figure moved into the room, illuminated by the dim light of my prison. This is Death the Kid, said Voldemort. I studied him closely. Voldemort had pale, gray skin, no hair, red eyes, and 2 slits for a nose. I raised an eyebrow. I assume you're Voldemort? I said coolly. For some reason, this earned me another blow to the head from Bellatrix. How dare you speak to the Dark Lord that way, Reaper brat? She shrieked. Crucio, hissed Voldemort, pointing his wand at me. I screamed. The pain was incredible. White-hot knives stabbing themselves repeatedly into me. The flashing light receded, lessening the pain just enough for me to be able to see Voldemort. I'll be back soon, Grim Reaper, he hissed with pleasure. This guy's sicker than Bellatrix, I thought, repulsed. In the meantime, I think your weapon partners were looking for you. Neither of them have as much resilience to pain as you do. Wouldn't it be interesting to see how quickly they break? Noah barely lasted an hour before I killed him. I looked up at him, rage coursing through me, canceling out the pain. Where are you going, you snake? I growled. Voldemort chuckled. If you do anything to Liz or Patty, I swear I'll kill you. I roared. Bella, he's all yours, said Voldemort, disappearing into the shadows. Bellatrix took out a knife along with her wand. This is going to hurt, I thought, wincing as Bellatrix slid the blade of the knife across my cheek, creating another cut. Crucio, she shrieked in delight. I screamed as the white-hot knives pierced me again and again. Guys, wherever you are right now, be careful. I thought desperately, already knowing I was now too weak to send out a proper soul message. Then everything faded back to black as I slipped out of consciousness. Hermione's POV. Today, class, we will be brewing the draft of peace again, said Professor Snape during potions class the next day. I had been paired up with Maka since Pavarti was in the hospital wing with a bad cold. I hope that this time the results will not be as he looked straight at Harry and Ron abysmal. The pair with the best marks will receive no homework for the weekend. You may begin, he said, sitting down behind his desk to correct papers or something. I turned to Maka. You ready? She asked me, a grin on her face. I nodded. Then let's do it, she said, punching her fist into the air. At the end of class, Maka and I stood on either side of my cauldron while Professor Snape came around to inspect our potions. He stopped in front of Harry and Ron's potion. I crossed my fingers behind my back. Please don't let those 2 knuckleheads fail. I prayed silently. Shockingly enough, you 2 have earned an acceptable for this lesson, said Snape regretfully. I grinned at Maka. Then Snape was in front of us. He spent a minute inspecting our potion. Then he shot a look at Maka. Well done, Miss Alburn. You and Miss Granger have earned an outstanding, he said at last. I stared at Maka as he walked on to assess the damage done to Liz and Patty. Their potion had exploded. Snape hates Gryffindors, especially Harry, Ron and me. I can't believe he'd actually give us an O, I told Maka as we left the classroom, the only ones with no homework for the weekend. Well, I might have intimidated Snape just a little back in Grimmauld Place. He's scared of all of us from the DWMA, said Maka sheepishly. Anyway, now that we don't have any homework for potions, that gives us more time to come up with a plan for rescuing Kid. I cocked my head to one side. Kid? Death the Kid. But that's too long, so everyone just calls him Kid.
Maka explained.
Won't that cause problems for him when he gets older? I asked. Well, by then he'll be a fully fledged Grim Reaper. The current Grim Reaper, or Lord Death as we call him, won't be able to continue being the Grim Reaper once Kid unlocks his full power. Lord Death will fall into a comatose state and Kid will become the next Lord Death, said Maka. I see, I said, nodding to look like I understood. This is all much too complicated in my opinion. Yes, it's kind of depressing actually. The stronger Kid gets, the weaker Lord Death becomes until Kid finally takes over his father's job. Then the process will start all over again if Kid decides to have a child, Maka continued. I don't get it, said Ron, appearing out of nowhere with Tsubaki and the boys in tow. I jumped. Gah. Ron, you shouldn't sneak up on us like that. I scolded. Hey, where'd Liz and Patty go? Asked Maka. Snape sent them to go get cleaned up by Madame Pomfrey after their cauldron exploded, said Tsubaki, eyebrow twitching. We all sat down at the Gryffindor table for dinner. Okay. Now that it's the weekend we have more time to go rescue Kid, said Black Star enthusiastically. We have permission to leave the school grounds to go look for Kid. But you guys don't, explained Maka. That's where we need your help. We need you to help us get as much information out of Draco Malfoy as possible. Since Kid's being held at his house, Draco's bound to know something. I nodded. Right. I made a batch of Veritaserum over the summer. I've just been waiting for the right moment to use it. Sol smirked. I can get it in his drink, no problem. I just need a distraction. Did someone say, said Fred, sitting down next to Patty. Distraction? Finished George, sitting down next to Ron. Say no more. We were about to use our fireworks anyway, which should be going off in a minute. I jumped. Are you serious? I said as quietly as possible. Thank God for some reason, mainly the author's terrible plot development skills. I decided to bring a small flask of the truth-telling potion with me. I gave Sol the flask. 3 drops of this stuff should be enough for us to get what we need, I told him. Bang! The fireworks went off and Sol slipped out of the crowd in the confusion. Red, gold, green and yellow dragon fireworks, mixed in with shimmering sparklers, soared into the great hall. Take cover, shouted Fred over the commotion. We didn't need telling twice. These fireworks didn't seem too picky as to where they were going. The sparklers soared around the hall for a while along with the dragons until Umbridge showed up. Umbridge left 5 seconds later, shrieking as a magnificent red and gold dragon chased her out of the great hall. Come on, Hermione, we want to go see, whined Harry, Ron and Black Star. No means no, I said firmly as the rest of the teachers managed to get the fireworks out of the great hall and the students back to their lunch. Sol reappeared. Done. The idiot took a giant swig of it as soon as I moved away from the table, he confirmed. At that moment Malfoy got up, slipped away from his cronies and left the great hall. That was convenient, muttered Black Star as the selected interrogation group got up to follow him. Me, Liz, Black Star, Sol and Maka. We all murmured in agreement. What was even more convenient was when we caught him in an empty corridor. Incarcerus, I whispered, pointing my wand at Malfoy. With a tiny yelp, he fell to the ground. Drag him into the empty classroom, ordered Maka. Liz and Black Star obliged. Once inside, they dumped Malfoy onto a chair. Maka knelt down to his level. TCH, what do you mudbloods want? He sneered, only to jump slightly once he caught sight of Black Star cracking his knuckles. We have a few questions for you, Draco, said Maka coldly, fixing Malfoy with an icy stare. And you will answer them. Malfoy gulped. Maybe the Veritaserum wasn't necessary after all. Now then, said Liz listlessly. Where is Death the Kid? At my father's house, Malfoy Manor, answered Malfoy. He glared angrily at Liz. What did you do to me? You filthy freak of nature. My father will have you. He never finished. Black Star had him pinned against the wall in a heartbeat. You want to try and finish that sentence? He hissed in a dangerously low voice. Malfoy gulped. So what if I do? He said shakily, trying for his usual sneering tone but failing miserably. Sol chuckled. I wouldn't if I were you, Draco. He may be an idiot. Sol looked down at Malfoy, having taken off his fake teeth, and gave him his best demon grin. But he's still an accomplished assassin. I nearly burst out laughing. Malfoy looked like he was about to wet himself. Please put me down. I'll tell you anything you want, whether you slipped me V Veritaserum or not, he managed. Black Star reluctantly put him down. Let's see, where were we? Said Maka. Can you tell us how to get to Malfoy Manor from here? I asked. Malfoy looked like he was about to sneer at me, but after a look from Black Star, he answered. Approximately 10 miles north of Winchester Cathedral. You'll find your friend there. How did Voldemort Draco flinched find out about Kid? About the DWMA?
Demanded Maka.
I don't know. He's probably run into someone from the DWMA before now, Malfoy replied. Where are they planning to sell Kid? Asked Liz. I could tell that this was a very touchy subject with her. Her Meister was in grave danger and she and Patty received a message from Kid a few nights ago saying that Voldemort was planning on using Kid as a bargaining chip to gain power amongst influential organizations. Malfoy looked up at Liz. The Council of Witches. Maka, Liz, Sol, Black Star, and I stared at Malfoy in shocked silence. Or what's left of them anyway, he added as an afterthought. Father mentioned that the two dealers were a snake and the witch Iruka.
Medusa, growled Maka.
Black Star slammed his fist into the nearest desk, smashing it into splinters. Reparo, I said as calmly as possible, pointing my wand at the shattered desk. Then I pointed my wand at Malfoy. Obliviate, I said, erasing all his memories of this conversation. Malfoy fainted, Sol and Black Star dragging him into the nearest men's bathroom. If you don't mind me asking, who is Medusa? I asked tentatively. One of the most evil witches known to mankind, said Maka, the look of shock still plastered over her face. It's like Black Star said. She won't die, said Sol, and for the first time since I met him back in Grimmauld Place, he looked worried. We've already killed her twice, but she keeps coming back to life. Can we stop her? I asked. No, it would be best for you, Harry and Ron, if you stayed far away from Medusa, said Sol. But we want to help. I protested. And even if I agree, Harry will be torn apart by the insanity if he fights Medusa, snapped.
Maka.
Dumbledore hired us to protect this school, and to protect you three. As your bodyguards, we refuse to allow you into a fight that will get you killed. But what about you guys? I asked. Every single one of us here at Hogwarts from the DWMA has some form of insanity within us. We're more immune to it than most, replied Sol coldly. I stared at them in shock as we filed into defense against the dark arts, sat down, and took out our slinkered books and quills. Hey, said Ron, slipping into the desk next to me. How'd it go? Asked Harry as he took out his book and quill on my other side.
Fine, Ilid.
Instead of taking notes during class, I watched the DWMA students closely. If I really focused, I could sense some lingering insanity coming from each of them. Maybe, I thought, starting to write, maybe this really is out of our hands now. Mwahahaha. What will happen next? Will the gang find Kid? How's Medusa involved in this? What happened to the Book of Iban? I have no clue. I'm making this up as I go. Review anyway. I want to see the numbers change. Ron. What the bloody hell's going on? Ron. What happened to getting me out of here? Willifier 123. I never said I would help you find the exit. Ron. Huh? Hermione, you're confusing him. Harry's POV. Here, try these on, said Liz, handing me Ron and Hermione each separate bags. We managed to convince Sol and Maka, the apparent leaders, that it would be a good idea to let us come with them on their rescue mission. We were now standing in the Gryffindor boys' dormitory. I reached into my bag and pulled out a pair of gray contacts, a sandy blonde wig and a face. You, what is this, Liz? Said Ron in disgust, holding up his face. They're fake faces, we can't risk you three being recognized. That would put our whole mission in jeopardy, said Liz. Come on. Everyone's waiting for us by the gate. Get your cloak ready. We followed Liz out of the portrait hole, down the grand staircase and out the front doors, all while underneath my invisibility cloak. Ron had the brilliant idea of using a temporary engorgement charm on it. To which Hermione had responded, "Why didn't I think of that?" We met Maka, Sol, Patty, Black Star, and Tsubaki at the gate. "You're late, Liz," said Maka, not bothering to keep her voice down. "Sorry," apologized Liz. "I'm ready now, let's go find Kid." With that, the gate swung open and we all made our way along the path until we had reached the outskirts of Hogsmeade. "We should be far enough now," said Maka. We took off the invisibility cloak, now fully adorned in our disguises. "Harry, Ron, you both brought your brooms, right?" We nodded, holding up our brooms for her to see. "Good. Here's the travel plan. Harry, you're going with Liz and Patty on your broom." "Don't worry," she said, catching my look of apprehension. "You won't have to fit 3 people on your broom. Liz and Patty will transform. If you can't hold on to them and the broom at the same time, put them in your pocket or somewhere that they won't fall out of." "If you drop us, I'll break your neck," said Patty, glaring at me. I shuddered. Then Patty went back to staring around with her bug-eyes look. Anyway, Maka continued. "Ron, you'll be taking Black Star and Tsubaki on your broom." "I'm sitting in front," said Ron. Black Star threw up his hands in defeat. "Fine by me. I don't even know how to fly one of these broom thingies." And finally, said Maka, "Hermione, you'll be coming with me and Sol on Sol's bike. Duck if we hit a pothole," warned Sol. "I can't control where I swing." "Okay, Hermione gupid." "All right, people. Let's move out." "For Kid," said Maka, punching her fist into the air. We mirrored her, cheering, "For Kid." 5 minutes later, "Stay in formation, Ron," I shouted over the wind. "Keep close to me. We're about to loose Maka and the others." "They'll be fine," came the slightly muffled voice of Liz Thompson from the sleek, silver and black pistol I was clutching in my right hand. "Black Star's a trained assassin, and Tsubaki's taught him a lot of what he knows. They'll be able to find Maka if they loose the trail." "Liz, why were you and Maka speaking so loudly earlier?" I asked. "For you, Ron and Hermione. Dumbledore knows we're going to rescue Kid tonight. He doesn't know that you 3 are with us. We had to make it look like we weren't trying to sneak around," she explained. "How did you 2 meet, Kid?" I asked. "Silence, then." "It's a long story," answered Liz. "That's fine. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to," I told her. "Thanks, Harry. I have another question. What would happen if I tried using you or Patty? Would it work?" I asked curiously. "Probably not. You'd have to be able to match soul wavelengths with us. You're a warlock, sorry, wizard. It would be next to impossible for you to resonate your soul with ours, but if this resonance thing is between the weapon and the Meister, wouldn't the weapon have to resonate with the Meister too?" I asked. "Yes. That's why it takes an extremely strong connection between both weapons and their Meister for it to work," she explained. I glanced down, through the clouds and at the road below us. Hermione was waving her left arm furiously at us. "Ron." Hermione's given the signal. "Start the descent." I called over my shoulder. Ron had to fall slightly behind us since his broom was carrying 2 people. I tilted my firebolt, which Maka had swiped from Umbridge's office, downward, landing the broom behind Winchester Cathedral. "Engorgo," murmured Hermione, pointing her wand at a bush. We hid the 2 brooms and the motorcycle behind the bush. Liz started glowing pink again, and before I knew it, she had transformed back into her human form. "I'll take Patty now, Harry," she said, holding out her hand. I handed over the gun. "Bye, Harry," giggled Patty as her sister hooked Patty onto her belt. "Okay, everyone, Malfoy Manor's 10 miles north of here." "Let's go," said Maka, using soul like a staff. "What? 10 miles? You've got to be joking," said Ron weakly. Maka shook her head sadly. "So it's true then. We figured out that you guys don't get much exercise at Hogwarts. Ron, you can ride with me on Sol. The rest of you, get moving." "Hold on just a moment," said Ron. "What do you mean ride on Sol?" Without answering, Maka twirled Sol around until he was facing upside down. Sol's blade shrank until Maka was holding a white staff with a red eye on the top. "Let's go, Soul Eater," she said, firing up now. "You got it," said Sol, a pair of enormous wings sprouting out of the head of the staff. Silence. Cool, I said. Everyone looked at me. What? I'm just saying. Thanks, Harry, said Maka, mounting Sol like a broom. Come on, Ron, let's move out. Half an hour later. I can't believe I just ran 10 miles, panted Hermione. You should do this more often, said the chain scythe or Tsubaki, from Black Star's hands. Black Star looked completely fine. She's right. It's good exercise, he grinned. Then maybe you'll eventually become as big a star as I am. That's enough, you guys, ordered Maka. Maka, how many? Asked Black Star, switching back to serious mode. For not including Kid. Kid's in the lower level of the house, she said, staring wide-eyed at the mansion. We should also look for the Book of Iban while we're at it. What's she doing? I whispered to Black Star. Finding Kid. See, Maka has this cool power called soul perception. She can see straight into someone's soul and locate anyone she wants by finding their soul, he explained, never taking his eyes off the house. Hermione, Harry, Ron, are there any protective enchantments we should be worrying about? Asked Maka. Hermione pointed her wand at the gate. Hominum revelio. Nothing. Well, we can't break down the gates. The caterwauling charm will prevent that, she said. I noticed a white object, pointed at a spot on the other side of the house. I chuckled. For all of their boasting, it looks like the Malfoys aren't above installing security cameras, I said, pointing. Now what, Maka? Asked Sol. I have a plan, that's what, answered Maka. Here's what we're going to do. Patty and Liz switch places. They obliged, Patty turning back into her human form, Liz transforming into a gun. Sorry, Liz, but Patty's faster, Maka apologized. Patty, will head over to the other side of the house. That's the weakest point. I want you to create a distraction. Fire Liz at the gate as many times as you need to, but stay out of sight. Once somebody comes outside to see what's going on, join us at the side door on the other side of the house. But don't get caught, she ordered. Patty nodded. I got it. Roger, Captain, said Liz. Next, continued Maka. The rest of us will enter through the side door, she said, drawing a diagram in the dirt with a gloved finger. If the enemy notices us, their main goal will be to guard Kid. They'll do whatever they can to slow us down. This is a similar situation to the Kishan revival disaster. Black Star rubbed his nose sheepishly. However, we're going to use a different strategy this time. We have the advantage of surprise, and we're not pressed for time. If we stick together, we'll outnumber the enemy and overpower him or her. Once we find Kid. Liz and Patty, you two take Kid, Harry, Ron and Hermione and get out. Wait for us at a safe distance from the house. Black Star, Sol, Tsubaki and I will search for the Book of Iban. If either Voldemort or Medusa shows up and we have Kid, but no book, retreat instantly. If either of them show up and we don't have Kid yet, Black Star and I will stall for time so that you five can find him. Remember, our top priority is to retrieve Kid. We're not leaving without him. Are you ready? We nodded. Hermione's hand covering Ron's mouth to stop him from protesting. Maka has natural leadership skills, that's for sure. I thought as we darted over to a small brown side door. Bang! 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 Shots. Silence. That's the signal. Let's go, said Maka as she finished picking the lock. We followed her inside, joined shortly by Patty. Kid is one floor down on the other side of the house, Maka murmured. The four from earlier are split. 2 in one room, the others with Kid. We'll have to fight all of them. There's no other way to the room where Kid's being held. She looked at me. You 3 go under the cloak, provide backup when necessary, but stay out of sight. Fine, I agreed, throwing the cloak over the 3 of us. Tsubaki, ninja blade mode, whispered Black Star. Tsubaki started glowing yellow again. Once the glow faded, Black Star was holding a pointed, silver knife with a tan grip, the chain scythe gone. I stared at him. Forget it, I've learned it's better not to ask, Hermione muttered to me. I shrugged. Then we followed the others out the door. We crept through the deserted corridors. I swear I could hear Ron's heart beating right behind me. We entered the dining living room and hid ourselves as quickly as possible. It was enormous, A gigantic crystal chandelier hung above a dining table half the size of the Gryffindor table in the Great Hall at Hogwarts. Lucius Malfoy stood up from a plush, leather sofa on the other side of the room in front of the white, marble fireplace. His wife, Narcissa Malfoy, followed suit. Who are you? What do you want?
Malfoy Senhor demande.
Strange, it's not like him to be so blunt. You took something that isn't yours, Mr. Malfoy, said Maka coldly from the shadows. We'd like it back now, said Liz, appearing behind him, holding him at gunpoint. Narcissa Malfoy took out her wand. Oh no, you don't. I thought, pointing my wand at her from under the cloak, aiming through Black Star and Maka. Expelliarmus, I whispered. Her wand flew out of her hand, soaring towards me. Thankfully, I didn't blow our cover since Black Star caught the wand. Bang! Malfoy stumbled backward, clutching his head. That is no ordinary gun, is it, my dear? He said to Liz, regaining his composure. If it were, I would be dead. Liz chuckled slightly. Oh no, I wouldn't kill you, she said innocently. Yet that'd be too easy. She grinned evilly at him. I like to play with my prey first. Insolent girl, snarled Malfoy, taking out his own wand. Malfoy started firing curse after curse at Liz, but she dodged them as easily as if they were leaves, blowing in the wind. Narcissa took a step forward, only to be stopped dead in her tracks. Stand down, lady, said Black Star, appearing behind her, Tsubaki at her throat. Narcissa gulped, then nodded slowly. Good, said Black Star, and he slammed the butt of the knife against her forehead. She crumpled onto the ground, out cold. This is too easy, Black Star said, taking out Narcissa's wand. He snapped it in two with one squeeze. We're done here, said Liz from next to an unconscious Malfoy. Let's go, these two wasted enough time as it is. They started towards a door next to the fireplace. I shuddered. Liz and Black Star just took down 2 Death Eaters in 2 minutes flat, without using any magic, and they're saying that fighting 2 Death Eaters is a waste of time. Hermione glanced at me. I could see that she agreed. Hagrid was right, our friends are dangerous. Very dangerous. Oh, this is getting good. Well, readers, I'll see you next time in the Order of Resonance. Until then. P.S. Review PPS. Emmy Rose Graham has changed usernames to Ballad of Cat. Check out Ballad of Cat Stories ASAP. Disclaimer. Medusa, I heard that. Medusa, that's what you think. They won't review for you, you'll have to stay here forever. Lawyer. Medusa. Willifier 123 is currently unable to come to the camera right now. If you want your author back to finish the rest of the fanfiction, review, post your opinion on the story. That is all. Harry's POV. We rush down a winding, narrow staircase to the lowest level of the mansion. And just where do you think you're going, kids? Snarled an enormous man from the other side of the long, wide-open hall. You haven't come to play with us? Pouted Bellatrix Lestrange, appearing mere millimeters away from the corner we'd crammed ourselves into. Ron had to suck in his chest to avoid her touching him. Black Star, Liz, the werewolf's all yours, said Maka. I've got the psycho witch. Hermione gasped once she got a look at the man's face. Unfortunately, Bellatrix was standing right next to us when Hermione gasped. Bellatrix pulled the invisibility cloak off. Well, what do we have here? 3 more school brats, she sneered. Panicking, Hermione lashed out, delivering a powerful kick to Bellatrix's gut. She flew backwards into the opposite wall. You'll receive the same fate that the Reaper brat got. She smirked. Maybe I'll be generous. How about I only break half the bones in your body? Maka pointed Soul at Bellatrix. You talk too much. You want to make something of it, girly? Threatened Bellatrix, sliding a knife out of her sleeve. Maka smirked at her. Let's dance, witch. Your soul is mine. They lunged, clashing knife on scythe. Crucio, shrieked Bellatrix. Maka blocked the attack using soul. Big mistake. I could feel the level of madness in the room growing rapidly. You shouldn't have done that, Maka giggled, still looking at the ground. Bellatrix didn't really understand what was going on, so she attacked again. Stupefy, she shrieked. The curse hit Maka square in the chest, doing absolutely nothing. How? Snarled Bellatrix. Maka's giggling grew louder, Her head snapped up, a look of pure insanity in her eyes, along with a mad grin plastered over her face. My blood is black, you know, she whispered. Then she let out a mad laugh and lunged at Bellatrix, twice as ferocious as before. Stop them, shouted Black Star, who was busy fighting the werewolf. Strange, he had what looked like black shadow marks twisting all over his body. Do something. If they're both completely consumed by the black blood, we'll loose them for good. What are we supposed to do? Shouted Ron, panicking. Separate them from the witch. The black blood is stimulated by fighting, said Black Star while ramming Tsubaki, who had turned into a wicked, black sword, into the werewolf's shoulder. Incarcerus, I roared, pointing my wand at Bellatrix, Hermione doing the same thing to Maka. Knock her out, urged Liz, who was firing round after round at the werewolf. They need time to be able to fight off the black blood. Hermione whacked a textbook over Maka's head. What? She said once she caught me and Ron staring at her. I got the idea from Maka. Stupefy, said Ron, pointing his wand at Bellatrix, who was trying to cut her ropes with her knife. She slumped over, unconscious. Black Star, Liz. We knocked both of them out. Now what? I called over to them. Good. Now some help would be greatly appreciated, said Liz as she and Patty made another switch. I'll stay here and watch Maka and Bellatrix, said Hermione. You two go help Black Star and Liz take down the werewolf. I glanced at Ron. He shrugged at me. Then we both charged into battle. Maka's POV. Ugh. My head is pounding. Where am I? Open your eyes, idiot, said Sol. I opened them. We were back in the black room, the little ogre sitting on the piano in front of us. Welcome back, you two. Been a while, hasn't it? Ever since you destroyed the kitchen, the hell inside your heads has gone quiet. Shut up, Pipsqueak. I snapped at the demon. Sol, do you have any idea how we can get out of here? Nope, said Sol. But we need to keep looking. I nodded. Right. We wandered around the room, which had gotten mysteriously huge. My eyes caught sight of a tiny door, big enough for the little ogre to fit through, painted black with a skull on the front. Hey Sol, I think I might have found something. Come check this out, I called over to my partner. He came over to join me in front of the door.
Seriously, Maka?
The insanity must be getting to you in here. How the hell are we supposed to fit through this door? It's tiny. Hey, I snapped. Do you have a better idea? No, he admitted. That was when I noticed something on the mahogany coffee table. A ring with a note attached to it. I picked the ring up, along with the note. Whoever puts this ring on will have the power to leave the madness, I read aloud. But there's only one ring, I said, scratching my head. Maka, you take the ring. Get out of here while you still can. I'll find a different way out, said Sol. But Sol, I can't just leave you here. What if I loose you for good? If anyone should stay here, it should be me. I have the anti-magic wavelength to protect me. I protested. That was when the room dissolved, leaving nothing but white and Sol. What just happened? I asked Sol. You really think I know? He retorted. You found the way out, whined the voice of the little ogre. Where are you, demon? I shouted, whipping my head around. Relax, I'm still in the room. But you're not. Sol was willing to sacrifice his sanity to keep you safe. That was all you needed. So, now that that's over, can we go now? Said Sol. That's up to you, said the ogre, chuckling. I took my partner's hand. Come on, Sol, let's go. We both closed our eyes. When we opened them again, we were both back at Malfoy Manor, tied back to back. Still Maka's POV. Hermione leaned over me. Are you okay? She asked tentatively. We're fine, said Sol, who had stayed inside mode. Now if you could untie us. Yes, untying us would be great, I said. Hermione obliged, fumbling slightly with the thick ropes, until we were free. Okay then, I said. Let's go, Sol, right, said my partner. Hermione stopped us. Easy guys, the battle's over. Black Star, Patty, and the others already took care of the werewolf, and Bellatrix has been out cold since we tied you two up. Okay then, I said again. Let's go get Kid. I announced to her and the rest of our friends, who had just come over to join us, Black Star dragging an unconscious werewolf by the scruff of his neck. What do we do with this guy? He asked. Put Greyback with Lestrange, said Liz from Patty's hand. Black Star did so, dragging the werewolf who was apparently called Fenrir Greyback into the open dungeon cell with Bellatrix Lestrange, locking the door behind him. Now then, said Harry, which one of these cells has Kid in it? Split up everyone, I ordered. Call the rest of us if you find Kid. The others all nodded, then went off to try doors. I opened the door across Bellatrix and Greyback's cell. Nope, this one's empty, I said to Soul. We tried the door next to it. I gasped, almost dropping Soul. Kid, I cried. For there, at the other end of the room, chained by his wrists, kneeling in a pool of his own blood, was Death the Kid. Hey guys, we found Kid, I called excitedly. The Thompson sisters were there in a flash, both of them in their human forms. Kid. They both cried at the same time, rushing over to their Meister's side. The rest of us followed, staying at a respectful distance. How are we supposed to get him out of these cuffs? Asked Patty, desperately tugging at the white chains, snaking their way up her Meister's wrists. Hey Kid, do you know how we can cut you loose from these things? I asked him. No reply. He's out cold, confirmed Liz. Maybe if we find the Book of Iban, the cuffs will disappear? Suggested Hermione. I shook my head. Can't be that simple. Maybe. I turned to look at Hermione, Harry, and Ron. I have an idea, but I'm not confident in my spell-casting abilities. Hermione, can you try the unlocking spell? I was just thinking, since the Book of Iban itself has a lock on it. Say no more, said Hermione. She took out her wand and pointed it at the glowing cuffs. Alohomora, she said. The cuffs fizzed, then disappeared, dropping an unconscious Kid onto the ground. Liz stooped down and slung his right arm over her shoulder. Patty tried to do the same with his left, but he cried out in pain when she touched his shoulder. We have to get him out of here, said Hermione urgently. He's obviously been badly hurt. I nodded. Yeah, let's get out of here before Medusa or Voldemort show up. We made our way upstairs, walking a bit slower than before due to Liz, who was carrying a half-dead Kid on her back. Stupefy, shouted Harry, aiming at Mr. Malfoy, who had woken up. Protego, roared Mr. Malfoy. Bang! Mr. Malfoy froze, his shoulder steaming. I turned around. Liz had her hand outstretched, a gun hole sticking out of her hand, smoking. The hole retreated back into her hand as she adjusted Kid on her back. Mr. Malfoy collapsed again, out cold. Wow, this guy's kind of a useless idiot, huh? Said Black Star, walking up to the unconscious body and poking him with his foot. Come on, we need to get out of here, said Liz. Once we were safely outside, back in our hiding place from earlier, Liz propped Kid against a tree. Come on, Kid. I need you to wake up, she said, gently shaking him until he woke with a groan. Liz, what? It's okay now, Kid. We're gonna get you out of here, but I need you to summon Beelzebub. Okay? She said. Kid obliged, waving his right hand over the ground. Purple skulls snaked across his hand until his trusty skateboard, Beelzebub, appeared. Kid passed out again. Summoning Beelzebub must have taken a lot of energy out of him, I said, as Liz lifted Kid up and gently placed him on the skateboard. Hold on a second, said Harry. Don't tell me you're going to use a skateboard to get Kid back to Winchester. Beelzebub puffed indignantly, then activated its rockets, propelling itself so that Kid was hovering inches off the ground. He's no ordinary skateboard, Harry, I said patiently. Now then, let's go, I said, mounting Soul. Ron, you're on your own this time, I called over my shoulder as we took off into the air. Hey, wait a second. That's not fair, shouted Ron as the others started to run. I laughed. Come on, Soul, I told my partner. Let's go home. Well, that took me forever to finish. Sorry for the wait. I've been a bit sick lately. Plus Medusa's holding me hostage. If you're reading this, send help immediately. Just keep reviewing and she'll go away. Hopefully. Is that really the Grim Reaper? Kyo. Where am I? Kyo. I am very confused right now. Kyo. Why do I have to do it? Disclaimer. Harry's POV. How's he doing? I asked Liz. We had managed to arrive back at Hogwarts last night without getting caught. Yeah, I have no idea how we managed to pull it off either. Hermione, Ron and I had snuck back to our dorms while Maka and the others rushed Kid to the hospital wing. They've been there ever since. Hermione and I had just arrived in the hospital wing to visit. Ron had Quidditch practice. Well, on the bright side, we know he's not gonna die, Liz grimaced. I looked at Kid. He did look like he was in terrible shape. Madame Pomfrey had removed his shirt to bandage his ribs, and 4 drip was stuck in his hand. To top it off, the poor bloke had an oxygen mask over his face. He has a few bruises and cuts here and there, but then there are the major injuries that Madame Pomfrey's worried about. He managed to get a dislocated shoulder, a broken leg, 4 cracked ribs, some major burns on his wrists, and a nasty cut on his back from when we fought the werewolf back in Hogsmeade, explained Liz. Hey Liz, we're gonna report to Lord Death now, said Maka, popping her head through the screens that Madame Pomfrey had set up. Liz stood up, followed by Patty. Okay, Maka turned to me. You two should come too. You can give Lord Death your side of the report since you're now involved with our work here at Hogwarts. I glanced at Hermione. She nodded. All right then, I answered. Let's meet Lord Death. The DWMA students gathered around a large mirror, the kind you might find in someone's dressing room. What do you think the Grim Reaper's going to be like? Hermione whispered as Maka began writing on the mirror with her finger. Dunno, I whispered back. I'd imagine him as being ruddy frightening though. The front of the mirror rippled, the reflection of the hospital wing disappearing, only to be replaced by a different image. A man with red hair, blue eyes, and a black cross-shaped tie stood in the mirror, next to who I assumed must be the Grim Reaper. He looks, well, different than I imagined, whispered Hermione. Different was an understatement. The Grim Reaper had the black cloak and skull head down, but the skull looked like it belonged in a cartoon show, not at all frightening. His cloak made him seem as if he were standing on a spring. Hello, Lord Death. 2-star Sidemeister Maka reporting in, said Maka cheerfully. The others voiced similar greetings. Hiya. What's up, you guys? Said the Grim Reaper. Even his voice sounds different, I muttered to Hermione. We have great news, sir, said Maka, beaming. Well, let's hear it, said the Grim Reaper. Last night, we successfully infiltrated Malfoy Manor and retrieved Kid, she said happily. Oh, that is good news, said the Grim Reaper, positively delighted. Ahem. Sol coughed. Maka started. Oh yeah, Lord Death, she motioned for me and Hermione to come forward. This is Hermione Granger and Harry Potter. They figured out our secret and they persuaded us to let them help with the retrieval efforts for Kid. We couldn't have rescued him without their help. They're here to report their side of the mission. The Grim Reaper studied us closely. Hello, sir, said Hermione, hoping to break the uncomfortable silence. Well, hello there, cutie. You look so adorable. Just like my little Maka. What's your name? Ranted the redhead standing next to the Grim Reaper.
Maka Chop.
I still don't understand how you managed to do that through the mirror, said Tsubaki, shaking her head as the redhead lay passed out somewhere behind the Grim Reaper. Sorry about that, Hermione, said Maka, looking very annoyed. That was my dad, the Death Scythe in charge of North America, Spirit. Elburn. Hold on, I interrupted. What's a Death Scythe? Sol thrust something under my nose. Here, read it. It's easier than explaining. I read aloud from what seemed to be his passport. Name of Death Scythe, Soul Eater. Continent in charge of West Europe. Age 15. Sex male. Death Scythe, a weapon student at Death Weaponmeister Academy who has claimed precisely 99 souls that have become Kishin eggs and the soul of one witch. Any weapon student who meets these requirements will become a Death Scythe, one of Lord Death's personal weapons. So you're a Death Scythe? I asked Sol. He nodded. Now that we have that sorted out, said the grim, Lord Death. I want to thank you too for helping Maka and the others rescue my son. Kid means a lot to me and I'm very thankful that you brought him back safe and sound, he said warmly. No problem, sir. Hermione reassured him. Right then. I'd like your report on what happened. Try to explain to me in as much detail as possible, please, said Lord Death. We did so, recapping everything from leaving the Hogwarts grounds up to dropping Kid off in the hospital wing last night. Lord Death turned to Sol and Maka. Did you manage to retrieve the Book of Iban? They both shook their heads. We didn't have enough time. I could feel Medusa approaching fast. Our top priority was getting Kid out of there. So we left, said Maka sheepishly. Well, what's done is done. There will be other opportunities to retrieve the Book of Ibn, said Lord Death. Did you see Noah? No, confirmed Soul. This weird, the dude was never even mentioned by our opponents, let alone there. I think I might have figured out a theory as to why Noah was resurrected, said Hermione tentatively. Well, go on, child. Let's hear it, said Lord Death encouragingly. Well, the Book of Ibn represents the 7 deadly sins, right? Said Hermione. Lord Death nodded. Yes, that's right. Well, I think Noah might represent the 7 deadly sins as well, which would mean that Noah has 7 lives. From what I've heard, the first Noah, the one who captured Kid the first time, he was the Noah who represented greed. If you're going in the cycle, when that Noah died, he would be replaced by the Wrath one. How did Noah die? She asked. Kid killed him, said Liz flatly. That would explain why Noah captured him a second time, for revenge. Hermione finished, glancing at me. I don't think either of us are going to be able to get used to how these guys are so nonchalant about killing. That is definitely a strong theory, Hermione, said Lord Death. What does Dumbledore have to say about this? Well, sir, he doesn't know that Harry and Hermione know anything about this, said Maka. They weren't supposed to even get involved, but we were persuaded to let them in because of their superior knowledge of magic and the fact that they now know our secret. Lord Death tilted his head. He's your employer for this mission. I'm not sure how you'll be able to keep this from him for much longer. Yes, but Lord Death, think of it this way, if he does find out, we'll get fired and you won't get paid the mission fee, said Sol. Good point, said Lord Death, nodding. How many Kishin attacks have you experienced since arriving at Hogwarts? A total of 5, said Maka grimly. They just keep coming. But where are they coming from is what I want to know, said Sol. Maybe the Forbidden Forest? Tsubaki suggested. Possibly. One more thing, we learned that Medusa is still alive, said Sol. And we think she's after Kid, added Liz. Why though? What could she possibly gain with Kid? Lord Death pondered. Well, we don't know if she's still going after Kid. Us rescuing him might have changed her goals. From what we learned, Voldemort made a bargain with Medusa and Iruka, Kid, for influence over the Council of Witches, said Liz. Well then, for now, tell Dumbledore what you know about Voldemort's plans with the Council of Witches. Leave out the part about Hermione and Harry if you have to. Continue with your training. Maka, I'd like you to be Liz and Patty's temporary Meister until Kid recovers. I assume you have been keeping up with training to use each other? Asked Lord Death. The others nodded. Good, notify me if anything big happens. Tell Kid to call me once he wakes up, said Lord Death. Bye. The mirror faded back to our reflections. Well, we should probably go back to the common room, said Hermione. I'm much too far behind in my revision for OWLS. Yeah, me too, I added, not wanting to sound lazy. We're heading up to the common room, are you guys coming? Asked Hermione. Sol and I are going to go give Dumbledore our report. You guys go ahead, we'll meet you there, said Maka. Still Harry's POV. When we reached the common room, we found Ron there waiting for us. How's Kid doing? He whispered as Hermione and I joined him at his table. Not so good, said Hermione. On the bright side, we know he's going to live. We met the Grim Reaper, I told Ron, watching for his reaction. Bloody hell, said Ron in awe. What's he like? Not very scary at all, I told him. Honestly, Kid's much scarier, said Hermione. I wonder if Kid's going to take the OWLS. I said. Probably not, he's missed nearly 3 months of school by now. Plus, they're probably not coming back next year, said Hermione. Lucky. Wish I didn't have to take exams, said Ron wistfully. Hermione hit him over the head with her textbook. Ouch! What was that for? He said angrily. Lucky. He has 4 cracked ribs, a dislocated shoulder, a broken leg, a couple of major burns and slash marks on his back from when he fought Fenrir Greyback that nearly reach his bones? And you're calling that lucky? Well, he still doesn't have to take exams, said Ron, rubbing his head. Honestly, Ronald, said Hermione, rolling her eyes as she buried her head in her copy of Achievements in Charming. What I want to know is why Maka went crazy back at Malfoy's place, said Ron. Because of the black blood, said Liz, appearing out of nowhere and scaring the living daylights out of us. Don't do that, Liz, you're worse than Ron, said Hermione, clutching at her heart. Sorry, said Liz, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation. She turned to Hermione. Do you remember when Sol said that each of us has some form of insanity within us? Hermione nodded. It's the black blood with Maka and Sol. Black blood is usually a substance of pure evil and madness. A long time ago, when Maka and Sol were doing an extra credit lesson in Italy, I want to do an extra credit lesson in Italy, exclaimed Ron. Where do I sign up? Anyway, said Liz, ignoring him. Maka and Sol, we're in Italy for an extra credit lesson, which basically is an opportunity to go to a new location outside of Death City, where we live, to collect some Kishin souls. Maka and Sol had filled their quota for the lesson, but they came across someone. He's a good friend of ours now, who had black blood. This person was eating a large amount of human souls, so naturally, Maka and Sol stepped in to challenge him. In the end, Sol was badly hurt. Some of our friends' black blood got inside Sol. Whenever Sol resonates with Maka too powerfully, or anything major happens, Sol's black blood is set off, and it gets inside Maka too, making them both go insane. But they usually manage to fight it off before the madness completely consumes them, she finished. Wow, I said. I had no idea, said Hermione. Yeah, well, it's something that they've learned to deal with, said Liz. Madness, insanity, whatever you want to call it, it becomes less of a problem once you learn to accept it. Just something to keep in mind for the future, she said.
Gacies.
What's a Bezoar? Shouted Patty from the other side of the common room. Hell if I know. Ask Tsubaki, Liz shouted back, walking over to help her sister. Ron, Hermione, and I looked at each other as soon as she left. So what do you reckon? Asked Ron. Can we trust them yet? Half of me wants to say no, they lied to us about everything in the beginning, said Hermione. But the other half is reminding me everything they've been through, and how they risked their lives to protect us and rescue Kid last night. So I'd say yes. Then it's settled, I said, picking up my copy of The Standard Book of Spells. Year 5. Hey Liz, Patty, Tsubaki, Ethan, you want to come study with us? Thanks again, guys, for getting rid of Medusa. I thought I was a goner. Special thanks to my wonderful beta reader, Devi.
L'ES Mirror.
See you next time, fools. Black Star. Ha 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 ha. Yes. Finally, it's the almighty Black Star's turn to do the disclaimer. Black Star. Willifier 123. Black Star. What's a disclaimer? Willifier 123 hits Black Star on head with frying pan, knocking him out. Snape disapparates, taking an unconscious Black Star with him. Maka's POV. It's a sort of flick, like this, said Harry, flicking his wand at the dummy. Reducto. The dummy blew up. All of us are currently in the room of requirement for our first ever Dumbledore's Army meeting. That is, all of us except for Liz. We agreed that Kid should have someone guarding him as often as possible, in case Medusa shows up. Right now, it's Liz's turn. Ha 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 ha. D. Reducto, 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 shouted Patty, cackling with glee as she blew up dummy after dummy. Good work, Patty, Harry called. Is she always like this? I had the impression that Patty had some difficulty with magic, he muttered to me, just out of earshot of that nosy kid from Hufflepuff. I think his name was Zacharias. That's it. Zacharias Smith. Yeah, well, Patty's always been a natural at blowing stuff up, I muttered back. Okay guys, you all did really great, but we've gone a bit overboard. Everybody head back to your dorms, Harry announced to the room at large. I glanced at my watch, my mouth hit the floor. He was right. We had to leave immediately if we wanted to make it to Dumbledore's meeting without him getting suspicious. See you tomorrow, guys, I told Harry, Ron and Hermione, grabbing onto Sol's arm and motioning for the others to follow. But we have to go. Sol's POV. So where are we going for Christmas? Asked Patty cheerfully. Blowing stuff up always seems to put her in a good mood. Dunno, I grunted. It all depends on Kid. We're probably staying here, since it'll take him a while to heal. Even though he is a Grim Reaper, said Maka matter-of-factly. True enough, said Tsubaki, nodding. Kid better wake up soon. How am I supposed to surpass God if I can't beat him? Demanded Black Star as we arrived at Dumbledore's gargoyle door thing. Hair drop, said Tsubaki. The gargoyle leapt aside and we climbed the stairs up to Dumbledore's study that was already filled with teachers. You're late, said Snape, scowling at Maka. Sorry about that, we forgot what time the meeting was, she lied. Never mind that now, Severus. Sol, your report, ordered Dumbledore. I cleared my throat and gave the teachers the details on what happened when we went to rescue Kid, excluding everything that had anything to do with Harry, Ron or Hermione. Good, thank you, Sol. Moving on, the situation regarding Medusa. Do you have any new intel on her? Asked Dumbledore. No, all we know is that she hasn't made her move yet. We don't know whether she will still side with Voldemort now that Voldemort no longer has Death the Kid, go after Kid herself, or wait for something to happen, said Tsubaki. Judging from previous experiences, our best guess is that she'll wait everything out until she can make a move that favors her, Maka added. Dumbledore nodded. Very well then, in light of recent situations, the DWMA's headmaster has sent us a new ally. Would you like to introduce yourself? I froze, the tip of a tall, pale blue top hat visible behind Dumbledore's desk. Oh crap. Anything but him, I groaned, looks of similar terror on the other five's faces. Fool. My legend dates back to the 12th century, said the holy sword Excalibur. No, not again, whispered Black Star, hiding behind Tsubaki. Like a crab, Excalibur scuttled up to us until his overly pointed nose was at my neck. With his blue lace coat thing, his bug eyes that look like they belong on an art project, his top hat and his blue cane, the legendary weapon Excalibur was still the most annoying living being to ever walk the face of the earth. Fools! I sense that you are Meisters. Have you come to be my partner? Nobody spoke. This earned me a smack on the head with Excalibur's cane. Maybe if I ignore him, he'll go away. I prayed. Fools! It's impolite not to answer a question. Excalibur pointed his cane under my nose. You there, young man? Do you want everlasting glory and power? Then come. Be my Meister. I looked desperately at my friends, then at the teachers, pleading silently for help. Some of my friends were trying to ignore Excalibur. Some were trying not to laugh, the rest Black Star were hiding, hoping not to be noticed by the holy sword. The teachers were all staring at Excalibur, unsure what to make of the situation. Excalibur hit me over the head again. Fool! On cold mornings I require a cup of steaming hot German coffee. In Australia. Unless it's a hot morning, then the coffee must be prepared near a hot spring. In Japan, while you play the banjo and hop on one foot, you'll find that in provision number 298 of the 1000 provisions that I require before you can become my Meister, said the little alien, slapping a pile of paper into my hands. And if I refuse? I asked, deciding to play along. Fool! Then you cannot become my Meister. Don't worry, I can lower the 1000 provisions to 800, just as long as you take part in the 5-hour storytelling party. Hate to burst your bubble, Excalibur, I said, putting on my sober face. This is gonna be hilarious. But I don't want to be your Meister. Fool! Who wouldn't want to be my Meister? My legend dates back to the 12th century, you know. Because I'm not a Meister, I'm a weapon, I told him. Little droplets of blood blossomed on my bottom lip as I bit down on it to keep from laughing at Excalibur, who had sat down, his back to me, to mope. I crouched down next to him, a sudden brainwave hitting me. Hey Excalibur, I'm not a Meister, but that guy over there, the one with the black hair and the black robes, he's been waiting for a chance to bask in your glory, I told him, pointing at his next victim. Haha, you there. Would you like to hear the daring, heroic tale of my legend? Nice one, said Black Star, high-fiving me as Excalibur went to bug Snape. Professor, what's Excalibur doing here? Asked Tsubaki, watching Excalibur poke Snape with his cane. He's here to assist you in protecting the students. Also, I was hoping that he could tell us more about the Book of Iban. Your headmaster said that he was imprisoned in the book as well as Kid. Unfortunately, Kid is in no condition to join us at this meeting, and so, we will use Excalibur's knowledge to prepare ourselves against Voldemort's new weapon, Dumbledore explained. If it were only that simple, said a new voice from the door. Hey sis, said Patty as Liz walked into the room. Hey, sorry I'm late. Madame Pomfrey wanted me to help her out with something. She apologized. Shooting me an I'll tell you later look. Well, we've already covered mainly everything, said Dumbledore, scratching his head. Oh, one more thing, Voldemort is readying his forces to storm the Ministry. Under no condition whatsoever is he to get to the prophecy. Albus, said Professor McGonagall, entering the room with Ron and Harry in tow. I hate to interrupt, but Potter has had a disturbing dream. It wasn't a dream. I saw it happen, Harry shouted. That's quite all right, Minerva, said Dumbledore. This meeting is just about finished anyway. He turned to the rest of us. You may leave. Actually, sir, could Maka, Sol, Liz, Patty, Blackstar, and Tsubaki stay here? Asked Ron. How do you know Ethan's real name? Snapped McGonagall, her wand out. This fine Professor McGonagall, Maka assured her. Harry, Ron, and Hermione figured out our secret. They've promised not to say anything. McGonagall put away her wand. Very well then. Dumbledore shooed away the rest of the teachers. Excalibur, however, refused to move, and so he stayed by Dumbledore's side. Potter, tell Professor Dumbledore what you told me, McGonagall ordered. Harry took a deep breath. Mr. Weasley's been attacked by a giant snake, he said. I stared at him in shock as he explained his dream. I may not like Mr. Weasley, but he was the first wizard we met when we arrived in England. Plus, he helped us escape airport security when we snuck around the metal detectors. Dumbledore stood up and walked over to the picture of some old dead dude that used to be headmaster until he kicked the bucket. Phineas, I want you to go to your portrait in Grimmauld Place. Notify the order. Arthur Weasley has been attacked. After some persuading, the dude in the picture got up and walked out the side of the frame. Professor, started Harry, but Dumbledore wasn't listening. Dumbledore crossed the room until he reached another picture, giving the old, dead chick in the picture orders. He turned to his phoenix, Fox. Notify Molly, he said softly to the red and gold bird. With a cry, Fox disappeared in flames. Harry exploded. Look at me. We all jumped, turning to look at him. Harry was staring at Dumbledore, a mix of rage and desperation on his face. What's happening to me? He asked Dumbledore. Nothing is happening to you, Harry, Dumbledore said calmly, placing a plastic, empty milk bottle on his desk. Now, I need all of you to put a finger on the bottle. You'll be taking the port key to Grimmauld Place. Fred, George, and Ginny will join you shortly. Excalibur, he said, turning to the little blue alien. Go with them, make sure they stay out of trouble. Fool, said Excalibur before putting his hand on the bottle. Liz, Patty, you two will stay here. I have a different job for you, Dumbledore continued. They nodded, stepping away from the bottle. So, how does this work? I asked Dumbledore. Do what Ron and Harry do, he instructed. I shrugged, putting a finger on the bottle. Maka, Blackstar, and Tsubaki followed my lead. I felt a great wrench in my gut as my world turned upside down, dumping us on the kitchen floor of Grimmauld Place. Still Sol's POV. Harry, Ron, are you all right? What happened? Phineas Nigellus said that Arthur's been attacked, said Sirius, getting up from the table. Harry told him the whole story. By the time he had finished, Fred, George, and Ginny had materialized from thin air, clutching a hairbrush, so he had to start all over again. Why don't you sit down? Suggested Sirius after Harry had finished. I'll get us some butter beers. The four Weasleys sat down around the table in silence. Ginny sat in a huddle, staring into the fire. Ron, who still hadn't said anything since he and Harry had entered Dumbledore's office, put his head on the table and fell asleep. Fred and George stared at Excalibur. The rest of us sat down, feeling awkward. Ethan, mate? Who's this? Asked George at last, nodding his head at Excalibur. Blackstar yelped and dived under the table just as Excalibur's head turned in his direction. Excalibur pointed his cane at George. Fools, do you want to hear a daring tale? A tale of romance, adventure, and mystery? My legend, Maka Chop. Maka hit the unsuspecting weapon over the head, making him turn to her, bug eyes watering. What was that for? He sniffled. Remember what Dumbledore told you, said Maka. Excalibur, shut up. I sighed in relief. Excalibur nearly blew our secret. Don't worry about him. He's here from Dumbledore. He's in the order, Maka told George. Okay. George tried again. Where are Liz and Patty? Maka siged. We don't know. Sirius came back with the butter beers. Here you go, drink up. We sat in silence after that. By the time Mrs. Weasley entered the kitchen, looking completely worn out, Maka's watch read 8 in the morning. Ron, Fred, George and Ginny all rushed over to meet their mom as she entered the kitchen. "Mom, how's Dad?" asked Ginny anxiously. Mrs. Weasley sighed. "He's resting at St. Mungo's. Bill's with him now. We can all go see him in the morning." All of the tension left the room as Ron, Fred, George and Ginny hugged their mom. "Well then, shall we get some breakfast going?" said Sirius, clapping his hands together. "I'll help," said Mrs. Weasley. No, Molly. You look exhausted." "Let me do it," Sirius insisted. "I'll help Sirius," said Maka, getting up to help him. "You too, Maka, you look exhausted." "I'll take care of it," said Sirius. "Come on, Sirius, Maka makes a mean omelet," I begged, having just realized how hungry I am. Sirius consented. Soon the delicious smell of breakfast filled the room, accompanied by the sizzle of Maka's frying pan. While the others talked cheerfully in anticipation of visiting Mr. Weasley, I studied Harry. He wasn't joining in on the others' conversation. Instead, he was staring at the table, looking tormented. Finally, he slipped upstairs, unnoticed by everyone else. I should probably do something, I thought, taking a huge bite out of the steaming hot omelet placed in front of me by Maka. Maka's better at dealing with feelings anyway. I'll let her deal with it if Harry doesn't stop acting weird. "Sol, how old are you anyway?" "Sol, why not? I want to know." I'd mention whoever got it right and their guess in this chapter. Maka, "Well, let's hear it. How old are you?" If one of them guessed right. Sadly, nobody got my age right. So after you do the disclaimer, Maka, you and Sol have to leave. 17. Only one person got it right. Justin O'Thirkiller guessed that I was either 13 or 15. Husha was right, I'm actually 13 years old. The fact that most of you think I have to be in high school for my work to be somewhat mediocre is either very flattering or really sad. Congratulations to Justin O'Thirkiller for getting it right. Anyway, on with the chapter. Maka's POV. "Come on, you lot," called Tonks, shepherding us onto the night bus again. "Fred, George, Ron, Ginny, Harry, and I will take the seats at the back of the bus. The rest of you head upstairs and find somewhere to sit." As soon as the rest of us, which consisted of me, Sol, Tsubaki, Blackstar, Mad-Eye Moody, Kingsley Shacklebolt, and Lupin, had found seats on the second floor of the bus, which was even more dangerous than the first floor, according to Blackstar, Mad-Eye began speaking. "Alright, now that Nymphadora has made sure that the kids are out of earshot, we should discuss a new plan of action on the guard for the weapon. It's obviously too dangerous to station only one order member on guard duty per night anymore. And we're already stationed at Hogwarts. Dumbledore made it perfectly clear that we're staying there," said Sol. "Have Medusa or Noah been sighted yet?" asked Tsubaki as Blackstar grabbed onto her to avoid a flying chair. "Not yet, and I'm starting to worry about that. They must be either planning an attack on the Ministry or Hogwarts, or something happened to them," said Lupin, clutching at a pole to avoid falling out of the bus window. "How did the snake get into the Ministry? Does anyone know what it was really after? I mean, who in their right mind would send a snake to retrieve the weapon?" said Blackstar incredulously. "We don't know," Moody admitted. "Have you actually learned anything since Mr. Weasley was attacked?" asked Sol. "No," said Lupin. "It's frustrating, but you know who's gone quiet and we can't track him," said Kingsley. "St. Mungo's," shouted Stan Shunpike from the ground floor of the bus. Feeling very relieved, we exited the bus. "I am never riding on that thing again," groaned Blackstar, leaning on Tsubaki for support, his face a light shade of green. Tonks grabbed my hand and pulled me, along with Sol, who had grabbed onto my hand, Tsubaki and Blackstar through a display mirror. "HH, I shouted. "Oh, we're inside St. Mungo's." "Well, that's clever," I said as the others passed through the barrier. Mrs. Weasley strode up to the counter. "Hello, I was told that my husband, Arthur Weasley, had been moved to a different ward. Could you tell me which one he's been moved to?" The accountant started rifling through a stack of files. Weasley, yes, Ward 49. "Thank you," said Mrs. Weasley, shooing us out of the way of the queue that had gathered in front of the receptionist. "In Mr. Weasley's ward." Still Maka's POV. When we reached Mr. Weasley's room, we found that he wasn't alone. By looking through the little window in the door, I could see that Mr. Weasley's bed was the farthest away from the door. Mad-Eye took a step away from the door and sat down, followed by Tonks. Family first, he growled. I sat down, along with Sol, Blackstar, Tsubaki, Lupin, and Kingsley. The Weasleys and Harry went inside. Great, I groaned. We're supposed to be on guard duty, and yet Dumbledore separated me from Liz and Patty. Lord Death told me to be their temporary Meister. Now what am I supposed to do? Relax. Lord Death didn't mean 247. Plus, it takes a lot of effort just to manage keeping your soul wavelength stable with those two. You'll be more useful protecting Harry if you're using me, your usual weapon, Sol reasoned. I nodded. Yeah, I guess you're right, I said glumly. But I'm so bored. Blackstar shouted at Tsubaki.
Makacho.
This is a hospital, idiot. I snapped at the now unconscious Blackstar, my handy Makachop book in hand. Hey Maka, said Tsubaki. Your mirror's glowing, she said, pointing at my pocket. Can you make sure we aren't disturbed? I asked Mad-Eye. He nodded. He and Kingsley went to stand guard at opposite ends of the deserted hallway while I took my mirror out of my pocket. Now this was no ordinary mirror. Kid had given these to us to use as communicators. The surface of the mirror flashed and changed, revealing the gaunt faces of Liz and Patty. Liz, Patty, thank death. Where are you? I asked them, still at Hogwarts. Dumbledore has us running back and forth to the Ministry, like his diplomats, said Liz, sounding more tired than she had ever sounded before. But sis, I thought Dumbledore said we were secret spy people? Patty contradicted innocently. For now, yes, we're his spies inside the Ministry. But we want Fudge to think that we're diplomats sent by Dumbledore. Don't worry, she said hastily, seeing the look of dismay on our faces. We should be arriving at Grimmauld Place soon. There's a 50-50% chance that Kid will be coming with us. You mean Kid's awake? I asked, crossing my fingers behind my back. No, far from it. There is something you should know. It's vital that this information doesn't leave this conversation. Unless it's with someone in the Order. Got it? Liz ordered. We nodded. Liz's face darkened significantly. Noah's dead. At least the Wrath one anyway. We stared at her in shock. The next one in the cycle should be Sloth. He won't cause as much trouble to us in his sloth form, but we don't know where or when he'll show up again, alive. Can you confirm this, Liz? Who told you? Asked Lupin. Kid talks in his sleep, she explained. She gritted her teeth. He moans in his sleep a lot. It stops just before the jerking. Then he's full out thrashing, screaming in absolute terror. We think his old madness might be coming back. She finished, her voice cracking. Patty hung her head. That's not the worst of it. The nightmares are hurting him. At this rate, it'll take him at least 3 months to wake up. If he's lucky, that is, said Liz. We're trying to get permission to move him to Grimmauld Place with the rest of you. He'll be safer from Medusa there. Plus, he needs his friends right now, she finished. Oh kid, said Tsubaki, placing a hand over her mouth in shock. The Weasleys and Harry opened the door of the ward, muttering something about getting some tea. You guys do realize something, right? I told them as we entered Mr. Weasley's ward. Now that Noah's dead, the Book of Iban is completely under Voldemort's possession. Yes, said Lupin once we had all circled around Mr. Weasley's bed. About Potter's dream, I don't like it. You do realize what that would mean if he was inside whose snake? Yes, I did know what he meant. I had researched it in the Hogwarts library about 1 month ago, back when Kid was still missing. Legilimency, the magical art of probing the mind and bending the soul, forcing it to obey your will through the connection of two minds, the caster and the target. Mad-Eye Sol interrupted. Maybe now isn't the best time to be talking about this. He pointed at the door. One of Fred and George's inventions, the extendable ear, had snaked under the door and was playing back our entire conversation to Harry and the others, who were listening outside the door. Mad-Eye stood up. Good to see you again, Arthur. Get some rest. I'm sure. Thank you, said Mr. Weasley. Mad-Eye headed for the door, the rest of us right behind him. Mad-Eye flung open the door, making the eavesdroppers jump out of their skins. We're leaving, he growled. Oh great, Sol grumbled once we were back on the Muggle subway. how are we going to explain to Fred, George, and Ginny why we were in that order meeting? We're not, I said grimly. They have to know the truth too. At least part of it. Living in the same house as them will make it difficult to hide our secret. Back at Reborned place, Harry's POV, everybody was chattering noisily as they made their way to the kitchen for dinner. I couldn't bring myself to join them. I could hear their chattering, the smell of roast beef wafting up to Buckbeak's room, where I had taken refuge. It's all right, I told my growling stomach. This is for the best. I'd end up hurting my friends if I went downstairs to join them. Knock! Knock! I ignored it, stroking Buckbeak's smooth feathers. Harry, I know you're in there. Please let me in, said Hermione from the other side of the door. Without waiting for an answer, she opened the door. When did you get here? I asked her. Just now. What's going on, Harry? Sol and Ron told me that you've been acting strange lately, she said, placing a tray of food on the ground between us. I told her everything that had happened, from my dream of Mr. Weasley up until now. Oh, Harry, I'm sorry, but you're acting a bit stupid. How could you possibly have been possessed by Voldemort? Said Hermione. She's right, said Maka from the door. I checked your soul earlier. It's pure. Well, for a wizard's soul anyway, she said, sitting down next to Hermione on the bed. How do you know that? I asked her angrily. How do you know that he doesn't have control over me? You're all putting yourselves in danger just by getting near me. First of all, Harry, I'm pretty sure that if you were possessed by Voldemort, and I'm not saying you are, I could snap you like a twig. I happen to be a weapon as well as a Meister, said Maka coldly, holding out her arm. With a flash of blue light, a silver-gray blade snapped out of her arm. And second of all, she continued as her blade retracted back into her body. If you were possessed, how did you get out of Hogwarts? If you were possessed and you managed to get out of Hogwarts, how is it that nobody saw or tried to stop you? Seriously, Harry, the chance of you being possessed is 1,000,000 to 0, said Sol coming into the room, followed by Blackstar, Tsubaki, Fred, George, and Ginny. I felt an enormous weight roll off of my shoulders. I hungrily picked up a bread roll. Well then, now that that's sorted out. Maka, Sol, Ethan, Tsubaki, there's something we'd like to ask you, said Ginny.
Maka siged.
Here we go again, what is it, Ginny? Why were you included in the order meeting? Fred asked jealously. Sol rolled his eyes at Fred. Use your head, idiot. We're in the order. Why else would we be allowed in their meetings? Fred, George, and Ginny stared at them. Maka, what was the name of your school in America? Asked Ginny at last. Maka took a deep breath. I suppose I should explain a little. We are from Death Weaponmeister Academy, the DWMA for short. The school was founded by Death himself for two purposes. One, the school acts as a last line of defense against the forces of insanity. And two, to train and guide young students who aren't old enough to defend against evil by themselves. You might be wondering what we do at this school. I'll make it simple. With our weapons, we hunt down and collect souls that have strayed off the path of humanity, otherwise known as kitchen eggs. We also collect witches' souls. Don't worry, she said hastily at the look of pure terror on Ginny's face. Fred and George had started edging towards the door. We won't hurt you. If we did, we would probably get fired and we'd be being bad friends. We were hired by Dumbledore to help protect the school from kitchen eggs. We're not really wizards or witches. That's pretty much it, said Maka, scratching her head. Oh yeah, she turned to Blackstar and Sol. Sol's not really my brother. Care to reintroduce yourselves? Sol reached into his mouth and popped out his fake teeth, revealing his demon-like fangs. Sorry for lying. Anyway, my name is still Sol, but I'm not really Maka's brother. She's just my Meister. You can call me Soul Eater, he finished, giving off his best demon smirk. Listen up, guys. My name's not Ethan and I'm not Tsubaki's cousin. I'm her Meister. Remember this name, it'll be the one that surpasses God. I'm the almighty assassin Blackstar. Yahoo!
Maka chop.
Ow wow, what was that for? Asked Blackstar, rubbing his head. Shut up, Blackstar, you're scaring Buckbeak, Maka scolded. Buckbeak? What about them? Sol snorted, nodding his head at Fred, George and Ginny, who were looking at them in absolute terror. I know this is a lot to take in, guys, said Hermione. We found out their secret a while ago. We promised not to tell anyone. That's fine, Hermione. But I have a few questions, said Ginny, who seemed to have calmed down significantly. How did you guys get your weapons into Hogwarts? And are Sam, Liz, and Patty in on this too? Finally, is the little alien guy downstairs a death weapon watch McCallet student too? First of all, the only Meisters or weapon master, if that's easier to understand, are me and Black Star, said Maka. The rest of us, which would be me and Sol, are the weapons, said Tsubaki sweetly. You mean like a human transfiguration spell? Asked Ginny curiously. Sol, Tsubaki, if you would, said Maka. Tsubaki started glowing yellow. Black Star stretched up his hands as Tsubaki shrunk, molding and shifting until Black Star was holding her chain scythe mode. Fred, George, and Ginny's mouths all hit the floor. Come on, Sol, any day now, said Maka, tapping her foot impatiently. Yeah, said Sol, glowing blue. Maka twirled him around until the glowing stopped. When it did, Maka slung Sol over her shoulder, Sol in full-on death scythe mode. Wicked, said Fred and George at the same time. To answer your second question, Ginny, said Tsubaki's voice, floating up out of the blade. Black Star handed Ginny one end of the blade. Sam Drake is not that boy's real name. Death the Kid, son of Lord Death, and Liz and Patty's Meister. All three of them are currently still at Hogwarts. And for your last question, said Maka as Tsubaki and Sol turned back into their human forms, Tsubaki jumping out of Ginny's hand. The little alien guy, his name's Excalibur. I assume you've all heard the legend of the Holy Sword, right? We all nodded. Well, Excalibur is a weapon, which means he has a human form too. Sort of. But he doesn't have a partner. Nobody can stand to be around him for more than 5 minutes. He's so annoying. Lord Death sent him here to help us, said Maka, her eyebrow twitching. The door opened again. What are you all doing up here? Said Mrs. Weasley. Never mind. Off to bed with the lot of you. We did as she said, trooping off to our respective bedrooms. I'm not possessed, I thought happily before falling asleep. Maka's POV. As I was about to enter the room I shared with Tsubaki, I heard the front door open again. Hello, dears. Yes, Albus told me to expect you. Bring him in here, came the voice of Mrs. Weasley from the downstairs hallway. Thank you, Mrs. Weasley, we really appreciate it. He calmed down when we gave him the stabilizing drug. So he shouldn't wake up the rest of the house, said a voice I knew very well. Liz. I stuck my head over the banister. There stood Liz and Patty in the hallway, along with Mrs. Weasley, and a floating stretcher. Liz looked up at me once she and Patty had hung their traveling cloaks on the coat rack. Hey Maka, she called up to me. We're back. Patty called excitedly. Yay, it's over. This chapter is the longest chapter I've ever written. Took me 4 days to finish. My beta reader, Devi Luesmir's been helping me though, so I finished faster than I would have otherwise. Isn't that right, Devi? Silence. Oh right. She's not here. You know where you can find her though, right? At her homepage. Check out Devi's stories or I won't update again for a long time. Congratulations again to Justin O'Thurkiller for winning the Guess Willifier 123's actual age competition. Until next time, Craig. Dude, what's going on? Craig. That doesn't answer my question. Craig, okay, later. Leaves through magical door of doom. Maka's POV. Merry Christmas, guys, I said cheerfully. I woke up at 5 and having nothing to do, I had decided to wake up Sol, Tsubaki, and Black Star, who hadn't seen Liz and Patty yet. You'll never guess who's here, I told them excitedly as we gathered in the hallway. Sirius, with the help of the rest of us, had been working round the clock, decorating the house for Christmas. In this hallway alone, luminous red baubles hung from the ceiling, the tinsel wound round the hand railing of the stairs, and from the sprigs of mistletoe hung above every door frame. Let me guess. Liz, Patty, and Kid? Said Sol, letting out a yawn. How'd you know? I asked incredulously. Liz looked up. Oh hey guys. Hold on Liz, I told her. I'm gonna need your chair. She obliged, standing up to watch me. Come on Kid, I thought desperately. I know you're in there, somewhere, and with that, I placed my head against his chest and closed my eyes, delving into his mind. Still Maka's POV. I opened my eyes to complete darkness. Well, at least it worked, I said aloud to myself. I clasped my hand over my mouth in surprise. I tried speaking again, but no sound came out. I then realized that I was upside down. That's just great. Well, I could always try searching for his soul, I thought. I flipped myself so that I was facing upright. Come on, kid, where are you? I twisted around in midair. Bingo, I found it. Kid's soul was blue, like the rest of our souls, with 3 connected Sanzu lines circling the top. I floated over to it. His soul's weakening, I thought, hugging the quivering blue soul. I have to hurry. My surroundings changed. I was standing on solid ground this time. Everything was blank, as if something had taken a giant eraser and rubbed out the world. A boy sat about 50 feet in front of me, curled up into a ball. Kid, is that you? I thought. Idiot, who else would it be? Either way, he can't hear you, remember? Said the sensible voice inside my head. Maka, came the voice of Kid. I jumped. The boy was obviously Kid, but he hadn't said anything. Had he? This is my soul, Maka, we're communicating telepathically. Siom on, Kid. I told him, stretching out my hand. Let's get out of here. Everyone's worried about you. He looked up. Yup, definitely Kid. But he looked, there was really no other way to put it. He looked like how Professor Stein was before. I'm afraid I can't do that, Maka, he said, standing up. You see, this is my soul. I can't leave it. He slid 2 pistols out of his shirt sleeves. I think I get it now, I said, a scythe appearing in my hands. Black Star said that he had to defeat you before you came to your senses the first time. I lunged at Kid. Now it's my turn. Kid didn't automatically start using his guns. Instead, he dodged my attacks, using his superior martial arts skills to gain the advantage. As he fought, he tried to distract me with his smooth talk that he was always so good at. Why are you so fixated on me? Have you ever thought that maybe I don't want to go with you? He asked, firing 3 rounds at me. I have, I said calmly, blocking his shots with my scythe. And I can tell you this. I did a flip, landing behind him, the blade of my scythe threatening to slice through his neck. I don't give a damn what you want. You're still coming home. The emptiness dissolved, the bedroom in Grimald Place replacing it. Still Maka's POV. I opened my eyes and took my head off of Kid's chest. He was still out of it, but his breathing had evened. Thanks, Maka, said Liz, and for most likely the first time since Kid disappeared, she gave me a genuine smile. Yay, yay, yay. Patty cheered, jumping up and down. Fools, do you know what time it is? Provision number 649 clearly states that I require my morning yoga routine to be performed at 6 o'clock sharp, with the melodious tunes of Escape the Fate, while 2 of you perform a daring tightrope walk across.
Maka chop.
Go bug somebody else, Excalibur. I grumbled, the annoying little pipsqueak having gone to his sulking corner. Black Star yelped and dove under the bed. Come on, Maka, said Tsubaki gently. You can afford to be a little nicer to Excalibur, right? It is Christmas after all. Fine I Reborned. Merry Christmas, Excalibur. I called over to him, tossing one of the Christmas presents that I had bought, but never found time to wrap. Escape the Fate's latest album. This War is Ours on CD. Now can you go do your yoga thing without waking up the rest of the house? Please? Fool, he said, running for his life from the room, while Tsubaki and Soul restrained me. Let me at him. I'll rip him in 2. Let go of me, Soul. Tsubaki. We'll see who's the fool when I'm done with you, Excalibur. Mwahahaha. It's official. She's completely lost it, said Soul, dodging one of my flailing fists.
Maka?
Calm down, ordered Tsubaki. I listened to her, taking a deep breath. Soul? Tsubaki. Please put me down, I asked sweetly. They obliged. Tsubaki has that kind of effect on the rest of us. That's why she's known as the sensible one in our team. At that moment, Liz and Patty both burst out laughing. What did we do? Soul demanded. I'm such a big star that it's driving them crazy, Black Star announced, coming out from under the bed. Oh my God, Liz wheezed, clutching her sides. Sorry guys, it's just that. She and Patty glanced at each other and burst out laughing again. Oh, we've missed you guys so much, said Liz. I smiled, pulling her and Patty into a hug. We missed you too, yeah, said Black Star. but now we're back together again. Group hug everyone. We hugged for a minute before breaking apart. That was when I heard a groan from the bed next to us. Hey guys, I think we just got the best Christmas present anyone could hope for, I said, nodding at the bed. Sol, Tsubaki, Black Star and I stayed at a respectful distance as Liz and Patty knelt next to the bed. With another groan, Death the Kid opened his eyes. This chapter was a lot of fun to write, even though it was relatively shorter than some of my other chapters. You should know my beta reader, Devi Luesmirer, by now. I won't update again until I get more reviews. I like seeing your opinions on what I'm writing, and I take what you say into consideration. And I finished the next chapter. I included some stuff about Escape the Fate in this chapter since I felt bad about Craig getting magically teleported here. Until next time, Pudding and presents Devi. Hey guys. Yay, I'm going to help run the show. I feel special. Okay. Hope you guys like the new chapter. Will Chan put in lots of work so you people better like Glare okay. Have fun reading. Harry's POV. Merry Christmas everyone, said Maka cheerfully, coming down the stairs, followed by Sol, Black Star, Tsubaki, and to everyone's great astonishment, Liz and Patty. Liz, Patty, when did you get here? Asked Hermione as she strangled Liz. We missed you guys, Ginny exclaimed while strangling Patty. Hey Ginny, you're strangling me, Patty choked. Ginny drew back, apologizing profusely. When did you get here? Hermione repeated impatiently. Just last night, answered Liz, sitting down at the table along with the rest of them. Hey Harry, Ron, Hermione, Maka muttered to us. Meet us upstairs in Liz and Patty's room after breakfast and presents, okay? Right, said Hermione. I wonder, meh, I shrugged, turning to the pile of presents in front of me. I started unwrapping my presents. I had received the usual sweater from Mrs. Weasley, a large handful of chocolate frogs from Hermione, Quidditch Through the Ages from Ron, a complete set of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes from Fred and George, and a small mirror from Maka, Sol, Black Star, Tsubaki, Liz and Patty. The mirror had a black frame and was decorated with a smooth, gray skull that resembled Lord Death's face at the base of the frame. It works like a cell phone, Tsubaki explained to me, Ron and Hermione, the latter two having received identical mirrors. Breath on the surface. Then write anyone who has this mirror's name on the surface. Your face will appear on their mirror as will theirs on your mirror. You can use these to contact each other or us whenever you want. We all have the same mirror. MPH. Thanks, said Ron, his mouth full of Mrs. Weasley's Christmas pudding. Hermione rolled her eyes and pulled Ron to his feet, following Maka, Sol, Black Star, Tsubaki, Liz and Patty upstairs. I followed them, saying one more Merry Christmas to Mr. Weasley, whom had been released from St. Mungo's this morning. Why are we going to Liz and Patty's room? I asked Maka curiously. You'll see. There's something we need to talk to you three about, said Maka, opening the door of the bedroom. Hermione gave a squeal of delight and rushed over to the middle bed of the room, crushing the bed's occupant in a bear hug. For the bed was occupied by none other than Death the Kid. God! Hermione watched the ribs, gasped Kid. Hermione withdrew, apologizing profusely as Liz and Patty gently helped Kid into a sitting position in his bed. Thanks Liz, Patty, said Kid, wincing slightly as he gingerly felt his rib cage with his right hand. I'm so sorry, Kid, Hermione repeated. But honestly, look at you. You're awake. That's great. When did you wake up? Why wasn't I there? Are you in a lot of pain? Did you contact Lord Death yet? Are you coming back to school with us? Do you plan on taking the exams? How, Hermione, enough is enough, said Maka jokingly. You don't want Kid to have a relapse, do you? No, of course not, said Hermione, blushing a light shade of pink. Anyway, we brought you guys here because we have an idea, Maka continued, switching back to serious mode. An idea for what? I demanded. And how does it involve us? There's a special technique that all meisters and weapons can perform together with their partners, said Maka. It's called soul resonance. When a meister and his or her partner successfully manage to pull this move off, their souls are in perfect sync, unlocking incredible power. Can you give us a demonstration? Asked Hermione. No, said Sol, shaking his head. Unless you, of course, could ask Sirius permission to destroy his house. Okay, we get it, said Ron hastily. Anyway, said Maka, at the DWMA, Lord Death puts us into teams, consisting of 3 partnerships. Really skilled teams can pull of chain resonance, the technique that synchronizes the souls of each Meister and his or her weapon. The Meisters move in sync, able to communicate through their thoughts. They also unlock their full stamina, speed, and physical strength. That's great, I said impatiently. But how does this involve us? I've noticed that all of our souls have a special connection with your souls. Kid, you did say it was possible, right? Asked Maka, turning to him. Kid nodded. Yes, it should be possible. What should be possible? Ron exploded. Performing chain resonance with you guys, said Maka. What? Hermione choked. But we aren't Meisters or weapons. We aren't part of your team either. How is that even possible? If we practice it, it should work, Maka insisted. If it does work, your magical attacks would be increased tenfold. We could also figure out combination attacks. Come on, Harry, please, she pleaded with me. Voldemort has the Book of Iban. This would give us our own weapon to fight against him. Fine, I said. As long as we don't blow anything up here, there shouldn't be a problem with us practicing. Oh no, said Maka. I didn't mean here. I meant when we go back to Hogwarts. We can't do anything while Kid's still injured, she said, glancing at Kid. Kid gritted his teeth. I'll be fine, Maka, he insisted, shrinking back when Liz loomed over him, her eyes glinting menacingly. Did I just hear you say you're gonna try and train? Liz growled while the rest of us took cover behind the 2 beds on either side of Kid's bed. Yes? Kid yelped. Big mistake. Then strangely enough, Liz calmed down and smiled sweetly at her Meister. Well then, I suppose you want to keep your dislocated shoulder? The one you can't move. Along with your other shoulder, the one you can move, she said evilly. Kid then shrieked, spit up blood and passed out again. Nice one, sis, Patty giggled, high-fiving her big sister. What happened? Ron asked Liz, sounding very confused. Oh, nothing. I just reminded him that he only dislocated one of his shoulders, Liz said, grinning. Anyway, said Maka, I figured that we should put off practicing until we get to Hogwarts. Kid needs more time to heal. Plus, we'd probably get in a lot of trouble for blowing up the orders. Headquarters, she added as an afterthought. Well, that's one thing I can look forward to when we go back to Hogwarts, I said bitterly. I now have occlumency lessons with Snape. What's occlumency? Asked Black Star, looking up from signing Kid's leg. Occlumency, Tsubaki corrected. I believe it's the art of fighting off mind control. Look on the bright side, Harry, she said, turning to me. Now there's no way Voldemort will ever be able to get into your head. That, along with our chain resonance, will give us quite an advantage against Voldemort. I suppose, I said glumly. Fools, said the little alien creature that Maka had said was supposedly King Arthur's legendary sword Excalibur, appearing out of nowhere. How did he do that? Stuttered Hermione, having jumped into Ron's arms. Fool, don't you know the saying, the taller the chef's hat, the better the chef? No, started Hermione, pushing herself out of Ron's arms. Fools, who said I was a chef? You did just now, said Ron irritably. Excalibur, I asked curiously. What exactly are you going to be doing at Hogwarts besides helping Maka, Sol, Black Star, Tsubaki, Kid, Liz and Patty with security? Fool, I require a cup of tea before I deign to answer that, said Excalibur, sitting in a large wicker chair, his back to us, petting a black cat. This guy, I muttered, scratching my head while the others chased Excalibur around the room. Where'd he find the chair and the cat? Hermione asked incredulously, having decided to watch the others chase Excalibur with me. Dunno, and I don't think we ever will know, I said, shaking my head in disbelief. How is he going to be able to stay in the castle? Hermione wondered. He's bound to cause suspicion among the rest of the students. If they think that there's something odd about Excalibur, at least a few of them are going to do some investigating. They'll make the connection to Maka and the others. Don't worry, said Kid. Kid, you're awake again, said Hermione, helping him into a sitting position. You don't have to worry about Excalibur, he insisted, watching Excalibur run for his life from Maka. Or us, for that matter. Excalibur's a lot more competent than he looks. Now then, he turned his focus onto me. Onto the matter of Malfoy. His father has no doubt told him more or less everything that happened. That would mean that Malfoy knows everything about us. Considering that his father was one of my jailers, he won't be afraid to exploit our secret. But, when we interrogated him, he didn't seem to be very happy with what his father was doing, said Hermione. Black Star did scare him to death though, she added as an afterthought. Hermione, you've known Malfoy for nearly 5 years now. His father was the one who broke my leg. He will use this to his advantage, said Kid. My eyes traveled down to his left leg. I remembered Liz saying Madame Pomfrey had confirmed that the bone had been snapped clean in half. That's why I have to ask you to erase all of his memories of the DWMA, the Council of Witches, my father and our powers. All right, said Hermione, forcing a smile. We'll try, Kid. Kid, shouted Patty. Having lost interest in Excalibur, she skipped over to the bed and dropped a pile of presents on his lap. Merry Christmas. I learned how to blow stuff up with the stick thingy Sid gave me. That's great, Patty, said Kid distractedly, counting his presents. Ah yes, good job, Patty. I was afraid I'd have to throw some away this time, but now that I have 8 presents I don't have to. In case you haven't noticed, Liz muttered, appearing next to me and scaring the living daylights out of Hermione. He's obsessed with the number 8. She placed a plastic bag on top of Kid's pile of presents. That reminds me, these are for you. Lord Death gave them to me to give to you. They're get-well-soon cards from all our friends back at the academy, she explained, smiling warmly at him. With help from Patty, Kid managed to open the bag with one hand. Whoosh! An avalanche of paper in every shade of the rainbow spilled out of the bag, along with the occasional, tiny present taped to a few cards. I'm more popular than I thought, Kid mused while the rest of us dived into his cards. Excalibur had vanished, most likely hiding downstairs from Maka. Hey Liz, Patty, I said, whipping my head up from the mountainous pile of cards. Weren't you supposed to contact Lord Death when Kid woke up? Oh my gosh, yeah, hey sis, we forgot to report to Lord Death. We are in so much trouble, let's go do it now, shouted Patty excitedly, pushing the wardrobe in the back of the room so that the mirror on the front of it was directly in front of Kid's bed. Kid winced. Okay, who's the idiot that let this girl near Sugar? Kid, I know you guys have to use a mirror to contact Lord Death, but do you have some sort of special way of contacting him? You know, since he's your dad? Asked Ron. I do, but I need 2 hands for my powers to work, said Kid. Ron stared at him blankly. And, Kid sighed. I can't move my left arm at all. Remember? Right, said Ron, his face a deep crimson. I knew that. 42-42-564. Whenever you want to knock on death's door, said Maka, stepping away from the mirror and in front of Kid. Let's surprise Lord Death. Shall we? She said mischievously as the reflection of the room disappeared, being replaced by the image of Lord Death. Hello, Lord Death. 2-star Scythe Meister Maka Alburn reporting in, said Maka, the others voicing similar greetings after her. Sol elbowed me in the ribcage. Hey, I protested. Then I realized that the others were looking at us expectantly. Harry Potter, 5th year Hogwarts student wizard reporting in. Ron and Hermione followed my lead, voicing their greetings. Hello, Meisters, weapons and wizards, and which added Lord Death, making Hermione nod in satisfaction. We have a Christmas present for you, Lord Death, said Maka, grinning broadly. Oh, said Lord Death, tilting his head slightly to the left. Look who finally woke up, said Maka. That was our cue to shift aside, revealing Kid, whom had gotten bored, and was fiddling with the cord of his 4-drip. Oh, hey Dad, said Kid, fixing his eyes on the foot of his bed. I'm sorry for making you worry, he apologized, not meeting his father's gaze. I'm your father, Kid, and you're a Grim Reaper, said Lord Death, sounding much more serious than he had the first time Hermione and I had met him. I will always have some reason to worry about you. It's a part of what we do. You're alive and back with us, safe and sound. For that, I am very grateful. You also killed 2 of Voldemort's trusted Death Eaters. You never cease to make me the proudest parent there is. Do you? Kid's golden eyes fixed on the empty holes in his father's mask. Thanks, Dad. He smiled. Merry Christmas. Hey, get back here you kids. Lord Death is taking a call. No students are allowed inside the death room without his permission. Oh, I'm talking to you. Are you even listening to me? You little shouted what sounded like Maka's dad. One of the death scythes, Spirit Albern. Well, it seems that some of your friends have come to say hello, said Lord Death, 7 heads popping into the image with him. Kim, Jackie, Ox, Harvar, Killick, Fire, Thunder. What are you guys doing here? Asked Maka incredulously. We heard that Lord Death was talking to Kid, said the pink-haired one, and we absolutely had to break our way into the death room to see for ourselves if Kid was really awake, said the brown-haired one wearing the same green and white uniform as Pinky. Ox, you knew you guys weren't supposed to be in the death room, scolded Maka. Why did you come anyway? Well, first of all, said the one with the swirly glasses who was nearly completely bald, excluding 2 straight pillars of hair that stuck out behind him just above his ears. Kim said so. The DWMA students in Grimald Place all rolled their eyes. I should have known, Maka sighed, placing her thumb and forefinger on the bridge of her nose in exasperation. That's not only why I agreed to break into the death room, said the baldy called Ox. Kid's awake. This is major news. We're just lucky that we heard it first. Kid raised an eyebrow skeptically. Why is me waking up such a big deal? We all stared at him. How long was I out anyway? Asked Kid to the room at large. A few days? Kid, you've been unconscious for a little over 3 weeks now, said Liz. Of course it's big news that you woke up. Wow, did I do it? He asked eagerly. Ron, Hermione, and I exchanged bewildered looks. Do what? Yup, said Pinky. Congratulations, Kid. You set the new record for longest time unconscious for the DWMA. When you get back, you don't have to do any homework for 3 weeks. Lucky, Liz whined while crouching over Patty, whom was rolling around on the floor, giggling hysterically. Who's the idiot who let this girl have sugar?
Kim demanded.
Dunno, said the one wearing a red visor over his eyes. Her head will explode one of these days, said the one with glasses and his hair up in a high ponytail. Yo, Black Star, you beat up any witches yet? Nah, I'm Black Star, the man who'll surpass God. I don't go around beating up the first witches and wizards that I see, Black Star boasted. Guys, this is Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger, said Maka. It's nice to meet you, said Kim. I never get to meet good witches and sorcerers like me. Is Hogwarts a lot of fun? I was going to go there until I was kicked out of the Council of Witches. You're a witch? Asked Hermione.
Kim nodded.
Yup, I'm the Tantuki witch. The Tantuki specializes in regeneration magic, not the destructive kind practiced in the Council of Witches, so I was kicked out. Oh, I'm sorry, Hermione apologized. Oh, that's perfectly all right, said Kim. If I had never been kicked out of the Council of Witches, I never would have joined the Academy and become Jackie's Meister. Oh, said Kim. We never introduced ourselves, did we? We're another team that works with Maka's team sometimes. I'm Kim Deal, 2-star Lampmeister. This is my weapon partner Jacqueline O'Lantern Dupre. She pointed at the brown-haired girl wearing the identical uniform to her own. She's my lamp. Oxford, 2-star Lightning Spearmeister. She pointed at Baldiox. His lightning spear Harvard de Eclair. She pointed at the guy with the red visor over his eyes. Killick Rung, 2-star Potmeister. She pointed at the other guy with glasses and a ponytail, and finally his 2 weapon partners, the Earth Shamans, Pot of Fire and Pot of Thunder. She pointed at the 2 little children sitting one on top of the other on Killick's head. Harry dear? Called Mrs. Weasley from downstairs. We're going to have another round of pudding. Would you all like some more? In a flash, Liz had strapped Patty to the wall farthest away from the door. That should hold her for a while, said Liz, watching her little sister struggle. Let me go, sis, I promise I'll be good, pretty please. I want more pudding, she shouted all in one breath. Not until you calm down, Liz ordered. We'll be going then, said Lord Death cheerfully. Call me up again soon, kiddo. Bye. The mirror's reflection faded back to reflect the large bedroom. Go have fun, Kid urged when we lingered in the room. It's Christmas, you deserve to relax. I'll be fine. Of that, I wasn't so sure. True Kid had been gaining strength throughout our conversation with Lord Death and one of the DWMA teams, but he was still whiter than a sheet. His skin drawn tight against his skull, and he had large purple shadows under his eyes. Get some rest, kid, said Liz, gently easing him back under his sheets. He fell asleep within moments. You deserve it, she said under her breath as we left, Black Star promising to bring Kid a slice of pudding. I want pudding, come on guys, lemme go pretty. Please Patty will be a good girl now, ranted Patty as we closed the door. Devi, I tell you, but then you would somehow mysteriously disappear off the face of the planet, in fact. Fugrin. Oh, you heard nothing, all right? Or else. Coghako, back to you. Willifier 123, Resonance Training go? Will Umbridge discover their secret? Will Hermione pass her OWLS? Why do I ask so many questions? You'll find all of this out if you stay alert for the rest of the Order of Resonance. Well, maybe not the thing about me asking questions. Just hit the story alert button in the bottom left-hand corner of this page. Go on. It's right there below me. I can't do it for you. Kid, what are you going to do about it? Willifier 123. You're so lucky you're hurt. Kid, yeah, thanks to you, you're the one controlling what happens. Naruto, believe it. Resonance training. Devi pops in from who knows where am I? And where did I come from? Oh. Willifier 123. Can you please explain what's going on? Kid, I've been here since you dumped me here. I can't move. Remember? Devi, HM? Has a starry look. Kid can't move. Gears start to turn. KIIDKU. Squeals and gives Kid a fangirl hug. Kid, can't breathe. Someone save me. Devi, sniffle. I'm sorry, Kid. I'm asymmetrical garbage. I shouldn't exist. Sob. Kid, no you're not. It's all right. Your pigtails are symmetrical. Devi, I have pigtails? What? Looks in mirror. I have pigtails. How? When? Who? Devi, you really think so? I don't know, it looks too like Maka for me. Even though they're not high pigtails. You know, I think I'm a lot like Maka. Maybe a little too much. Maka, you got a problem with that? Devi, No, it's fine. Okay, Wilchan, back to you now. Willifier 123. Let's just see the chapter now. Maka's POV. What about tonight? Suggested Soul. The DA isn't meeting tonight. The room of requirement should be empty. There's that word again. Should this, should that. Are you 100 sure that this is safe? Said an irritated Hermione. No, I said confidently. It's been a week since we came back from Christmas break. We were trying to decide on a time to start practicing our chain resonance, while we're attempting to transfigure our mice into tea cozies. If we die, I'm haunting your grave forever, Hermione warned, flicking her wand at her mouse. The poor creature turned into a little white tea cozy, whatever a tea cozy is. You'll be fine, said Liz, who, having lost her mouse, was playing with her hair.
Hey sis.
Where'd your mouse go? Asked Patty, stroking her mouse lovingly. No idea, said Liz. That's no fun. Patty pouted. Shush, said Liz, putting a finger to her mouth. You'll wake up, Kid. I forgot about my mouse for a second to take a peek at Kid, who was sitting next to Liz. Kid was indeed fast asleep, his head resting on the desk. Should he be in class? Asked Hermione worriedly. He's been falling asleep for longer periods of time ever since he woke up for the first time back in Grimmauld Place, she said under her breath. This was true. He also has a concussion, which might be adding onto the problem with his sleep deprivation. He insisted, said Liz, giving Kid a half-annoyed, half-fond glance. He said he was tired of beds. Plus, he felt awkward going to the hospital wing when he's already left it to come with us to where. If he's tired of beds, then why does he keep falling asleep? I said in exasperation. I then noticed that my mouse had swollen to the size of a baseball. Hermione, I asked, slightly panicked. Hermione sighed. Reducio, she said, pointing her wand at the mouse. The mouse shrank back to its normal size and curled up into a little ball, shivering in fright. Poor thing, I said sadly. That's enough, class. Wands away. Miss Brown, collect everyone's mouse and put them in the box. Remember, class, I expect a 2-inch essay on transfiguring different types of animals by Monday. You may leave once your mouse has been collected, said Professor McGonagall. And Miss Thompson, she added as the rest of the class left. You and your sister would be doing me a favor if you would take Mr. Drake up to the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey has already notified me, along with all of his teachers, that he has to report in with her for a checkup twice a day to see how he's doing. You have charms next, don't you? I'll write you a late pass to give to Professor Flitwick. Sure thing, Professor, said Liz, slinging Kid onto her back. Let's go, Patty, right? Said Patty, and with that, the three of them zipped out of the classroom. Miss Alburn, said Professor McGonagall, I suggest that you hurry. Professor Flitwick might not be as lenient with you if you're late. I jumped. I was alone in the classroom with Professor McGonagall with 5 minutes to get to charms. Oh crud, I shouted, sprinting out of the classroom. Thanks, Professor. Bye. I heard Professor McGonagall chuckle before the door to the Transfiguration classroom closed behind me. Later that night in the room of requirement, Harry's POV. Are you sure you're all right, Kid? Asked Hermione for the umpteenth time. I'll be fine, Hermione, said Kid patiently. I'm a Grim Reaper. My body heals faster than humans. I don't care, you're still sitting this round out, said Maka flatly. Against Kid's protests, she picked him up, crossed the room, and sat him behind the protective barrier that our new practice room came with. Hey Harry, said Sol. Do you know how to use a scythe? I thought about it for a moment, remembering how Maka twirled Sol around so easily. I said hesitantly. But why? Close enough, said Sol, transforming into a scythe. I caught him in surprise. You'll be using me until Kid comes back in, he instructed. Wait, how come I can match soul wavelengths with you? I asked him, bewildered. So you know what soul wavelengths are? Good, you're not completely useless, said Sol. Hey, I said indignantly, a vein pulsing in my temple. Manipulating your soul to be compatible with whoever's wielding you is pretty basic for a death scythe, or so I've heard, said Tsubaki. Let's just get this over with, I said, rolling my eyes at the sleek, black and red scythe in my hands. Fine, said Maka. Liz, Patty, Tsubaki, if you would. Tsubaki transformed into her standard chain scythe mode and Black Star caught her. Liz and Patty glowed pink, transforming into 2 twin pistols, which to my surprise Maka caught. Lord Death's orders, she explained once she caught us staring at her. Black Star, Kid and I have been training to use each other's weapons in case of an emergency. Everyone will be back to their correct weapon partner when Kid comes back in. Now then, she said. Moving on, everyone stand in a circle. I gripped Sol nervously as I did what she asked. Close your eyes, envision your inner self. Then, picture that inner self expanding until it partially leaves your body, she ordered. I heard a loud whoosh, while my eyes were closed, so I assumed that we got it right. Now, Black Star, you know what to do, said Maka. A few seconds later, Maka called out more orders. Now, Harry, I need you to envision your expanded inner self branching out to me and Black Star. I tried, squeezing my eyes shut as tightly as possible. Nothing blew up, which hopefully meant that we were still doing it correctly. Now, Black Star and Harry, feed your inner selves to Ron and Hermione, ordered Maka. I tried to picture my tendril, then my tendril reaching out to Ron and Hermione. Boom! Tiny lights exploded in front of my eyes as my head hit the protective barrier, me having been thrown backward when our chain resonance combusted. Is everyone all right? I called through the smoke. A few murmurs of yes answered. The smoke cleared with one sweep of Hermione's wand. Ron, you look ridiculous. She giggled at Ron. She had a good reason to. Ron's face was black with soot, his hair sticking straight up on end. Here, let me help you. And with another wave of her wand, she cleaned Ron up. Wait a second, Hermione. Have you ever been able to do non-verbal spells before? I asked excitedly. No, said Hermione, shaking her head, dawning comprehension crossing her face. That means it worked, I said triumphantly. I added. And we'll keep doing it until it does work, said Hermione determinedly. I thought you were against this idea, said Maka, sounding amused. I was a bit skeptical at first, Hermione admitted. But now I know it can work. Plus, we're already here, we might as well give it all we've got.
Maka grinned.
That's the spirit, Hermione. Okay. Places, people. Half an hour later, still Harry's POV. I was reaching my inner self's tendril out, for what felt like the umpteenth time, to Kid, Maka, and Black Star, when I heard a pop. Open your eyes, everyone, said Maka calmly. We did as we were told. When I opened my eyes, I could see that my friends all had a blue aura glowing around the outlines of their bodies. When I looked down at my hands, I saw that I was glowing blue as well. Try casting a spell, Harry, said Maka, who had started sparring Black Star and Kid. I shrugged, whipped out my wand, and pointed it at one of the practice dummies at the other end of the room. Reducto. Instead of the dummy simply blowing up, my spell set of such a terrific explosion that it reduced every dummy around it to less than ashes as well. Wicked, said Ron. Go ahead, Ron. Try knocking the dummy's head off. No magic, said Maka, blocking a faint strike from Black Star. How do I do that? Asked Ron, confused. The blue light flickered around him for a second. With your fists or your feet, said Maka, swinging Soul at Kid's head. Hurry, you're losing your focus. Ron took a running start at the target. Appearing in front of it in a flash, he reached back his fist and punched the dummy's head. The head went flying off with a loud boom. Nice punch, said an amused Black Star, while blocking a rapid-fire assault from a one-armed Kid. That was when the blue glow around each of us vanished. Darn, said Maka. Maka, your voice sounds different, I told her. She grinned at me. That's because we were all communicating telepathically when we were resonating souls. I don't think I can keep up using only Liz or Patty for much longer, Kid complained. It's so asymmetrical. You'll live, said Liz unsympathetically. Okay guys, said Soul, turning back into his human form, followed by Tsubaki, Liz and Patty. That was good. How about we practice again at the same time and same place next week? Sounds good to me, I said. The others murmured in agreement. Did you see me, Harry? Asked Ron as we entered the Gryffindor portrait hole. I moved faster than should be possible for a human. Then I punched the dummy's head off just like that, he said excitedly, mimicking the Superman punch he had performed in the room of requirement. It was bloody awesome. I agreed as we made our way up to the boys' dorms, followed by Soul, Black Star, and Kid, who were taking longer since Kid was leaning heavily on Black Star. I hate feeling like a damned invalid, said Kid once the trio had reached our room, as Black Star helped him into bed. I know how you feel, said Black Star. Don't worry, you're Kid. It'll take more than this to keep you down for too long. No reply, Kid had already fallen asleep. I hope so, Black Star, said Soul from his bed. I really hope so. Kid, I can't move, remember? Never running for my life from Jiraiya or smooth-talking Kakashi into letting him go again. Until next time.
Maka. Iavaibodi.
Willifier 123 refused to do the disclaimer today, so we're going to do it instead. Soul, we are? Excalibur. Fool. Of course we are. Maka, what he said. Soul, what show? Maka, this show. Soul. Huh? Maka? Don't worry about it. You'll just hurt yourself if you try to figure it out. Harry, think of a happy memory. The happiest one you have, I urged the DA. After a lot of begging, we started learning how to cast a Patronus charm. Look out, called Tsubaki. I ducked as her Patronus. A majestic stag cantered across the room. Good job, Tsubaki, I told her, coming over to stand next to her. That's the same Patronus I've got. But it wasn't the same. This stag was larger than mine, the antlers longer and more intricate. The stag more or less looked like a giant zebra with antlers. Really? She asked, surprised. It's supposed to be my dad. He could turn into a stag since he was an animagus, I explained. Well, that explains my Patronus, said Tsubaki with a smile. You have your dad. I have my brother. Was your brother an animagus too? I asked curiously. Tsubaki looked at me sadly. No, he is a stag that lives inside my head now. She laughed when she saw my face. I'm sorry if that sounds disturbing to you, but it's the truth. Then the lights in the room of requirement flickered. The blue lights from the Patronus charms fizzled and died, leaving the room dark. Everyone, Get back, I ordered, marching up to check the crack of the door. Colin Creevy, being Colin Creevy, had disobeyed me and came to check with me. The pudgy, toad-like face of Dolores Umbridge peered back at me through the crack, her wand pointing straight at my nose. I'll make this quick, she said clearly. Get down, shouted Kid, tackling us. Reducto, said Umbridge. We went flying into the opposite wall, cushioned by Kid, who had shielded us from the explosion. Gah! Kid cried out in pain.
Essam, stuttered Colin.
Run, Colin, I told him. Go tell the others. He nodded, scurrying off, only to be herded back into the group by Umbridge's inquisitorial squad. Not so fast, sneered Malfoy. You aren't going anywhere. That goes for the rest of you too. Malfoy crumpled to the ground, out cold. Shut up, Malfoy, said Black Star, appearing where Malfoy had been standing mere moments ago. Stupefy, shouted Pansy Parkinson. Bang! Pansy too, crumpled to the ground, out cold, courtesy of one of Liz's bullets, fired by Patty. The battle started, the inquisitorial squad against the representatives of the Academy. Incendio, shouted Umbridge, flicking her wand. A line of fire roared to life, separating the DWMA students from the inquisitorial squad. Now then, said Umbridge sweetly, Mr. Potter, you'll be coming with me. Miss Alburn, Mr. Nakatsukasa, Miss Nakatsukasa, Mr. Drake and the two Miss Thompsons, you will all accompany us to the headmaster's office, she ordered. The rest of you, back to your common rooms. I will deal with you later. I didn't have much of a choice, seeing as Montague had a death grip on my arm. So I followed Umbridge out of the room of requirement. In Dumbledore's office. Harry, you see, Minister? This is proof that Dumbledore's planning to overthrow you, said Umbridge. For some reason, the Minister of Magic, Kingsley Shacklebolt and Percy Weasley were in Professor Dumbledore's office. And as if that weren't enough, said Umbridge, gesturing at the DWMA students. He's been breeding superhuman children to use in his army against you. Before anyone had a chance to blink, Black Star was right in front of Umbridge. Black Star, big wave, he said, thrusting his hands out at Umbridge. With a crack of yellow electricity, Umbridge flew backwards into Percy Weasley. Don't treat us like dogs, he said coldly. I'm too big of a star for you to use petty insults like that. Why, you see, Dumbledore? Stuttered Cornelius Fudge. They can't be human. Surely you've realized this. Or were you planning on using them in an attempt to overthrow me? Dumbledore sighed. I had hoped that it wouldn't have to come down to this. I see now that that was a fool's dream. Cornelius, I did indeed know that these children are not entirely human. That's why I hired them. Hey Dumbledore, can we wrap this up? We don't exactly have all night, called Liz. Naturally, said Dumbledore. Kid, you know what to do. Kid nodded, thrusting out his right, and with great difficulty, his left hand. I could see him gritting his teeth in pain as he made a couple of hand signs. Purple skulls snaked their way up his arms, shooting a beam of purple light into the wall. Instead of the beam of light blowing up the wall, it created a large, skull-shaped portal. Stop them, spluttered Fudge. Too late. The 7 of them had already disappeared through the skull-shaped portal, shortly followed by Excalibur, whom had shown up out of nowhere. Well, that was fun, said Dumbledore. You're coming with us to Azkaban, Dumbledore, said Fudge. You'll be joined by your freak show mercenaries as soon as we track them down. Come on. That's all very good, Cornelius, said Dumbledore pleasantly. But as to me, what was the phrase the Muggles used? Coming quietly? I have no intention of coming quietly with you anywhere. Stop him, barked Fudge. Again too late. Dumbledore clasped onto the tail feathers of Fawkes as the phoenix swooped over his head. The pair of them burst into flames. When the flames cleared, they were both gone. He can't have gone far, said Umbridge. Shacklebolt, Weasley, search the stairs. Will, Hogwarts, boomed the voice of Dumbledore from nowhere. This is an order, forget. A bright, white light accompanied this command, filling the entire room, most likely the entire school as well. Huh? Was my last thought before everything went black. To be continued. Hi everyone. I know we're at the end of the fanfic. So sad. Never fear, my loyal readers. This was only part 1. I promise you'll see what happens to Harry and the others in the even more epic and awesome part 2, which I'm going to start working on right now. Until next time. Announcement. This is not the end of the FIC. There is a part 2. It's titled Paper Phoenix. It is also in the Soul Eater Harry Potter crossovers section of this website. Check it out to read the rest. Kid. It's so unsymmetrical. What were you thinking?
Keith? No.
Maka's POV. Morning Maka, Soul, greeted Hermione as we sat down at the Gryffindor table for breakfast. Hey Hermione. Good morning, I said warmly, pulling a plate of scrambled eggs towards me.
Iguis,
said Liz, sitting down next to me, followed by Patty. Hey, where's Kid? Asked Soul in between bites of bacon. In the hospital wing for his checkup. Madame Pomfrey wanted to keep him for a little longer this time, explained Liz. I was about to respond when Angelina Johnson swooped down on the table, looking panicked. Coot and Peeks knocked each other out during practice yesterday. Madame Pomfrey refused to let them go in time for today's match against Slytherin. What are we going to do? Well, you're going to have to find replacements, aren't you? Said Harry. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Where am I supposed to find 2 replacement beaters at such short notice? She snapped. Before he could answer, Angelina threw her hands into the air in exasperation. Oh, I'll just have to find someone who knows how to fly a broom. Then, to my great astonishment, she pointed at me.
Maka.
I've heard you know how to fly. You're playing today. What? I choked, spitting out my pumpkin juice all over Ron, who was sitting across from me. I don't get a say in this at all? Liz and Patty snickered. Angelina then turned on the Thompson sisters. You, Liz, you're playing too. You and Maka are filling in as beaters. Follow Ron down to the Quidditch pitch after breakfast. Don't be late. That shut Liz up. Patty howled with laughter, making everyone in the nearby vicinity stare. Liz turned to Ron. Ron, what's a beater? In the Gryffindor Quidditch team locker room, still Maka's POV. I nodded. I got it. But Liz was scratching her head, completely clueless. Liz pumped her fist into the air. Okay, I'm ready to go. We followed Ron into the meeting room, where 4 other teens in red and gold Quidditch robes were waiting for us. Ginny gave us a small, sad smile as we sat down. You'll do fine. It's only this one match, she whispered reassuringly, squeezing our hands. She, of course, had no idea that I fly on Soul every night when we do our rounds for Border Patrol. Okay, everyone. We've had a slight setback involving our original beaters. Luckily, I found 2 replacements. Everyone, this is Liz Thompson and Maka Alburn. They will be filling in for today, said Angelina, standing on a small podium in front of her team. The rest of the team greeted us warmly, then turned back to Angelina for her pep talk. If we follow the plan that we ran through yesterday in practice, everything will be fine. Ginny, we're counting on you, she said, looking directly at Ginny. Ginny nodded. Malfoy won't know what hit him. Maka, Liz, it's your job to protect the rest of us from the bludgers. But keep a special eye on Ginny. If our seeker goes down, we might as well have already lost, Angelina told us. No pressure, right? Liz muttered to me as I nodded at Angelina. All right then, let's move out, people, ordered Angelina, sounding remarkably like me. Don't stand up too many times when you're on the broom, Liz muttered to me as we made our way through the arena-like opening. Yeah, I know, I started. I lost all train of thought as we walked out onto the Quidditch pitch to the roar of the spectators. It looked a lot smaller when we were in the stands, I told Liz as we circled around Madame Hooch, the referee, and a crate. Now I want a nice, clean game, you hear? Slytherin? Madame Hooch said sternly. Yeah, sneered the Slytherin captain, Montague. Madame Hooch ignored him. Mount your brooms, she ordered. I straddled my new Clean Sweep 7. Liz, following my lead, was gripping her beater's bat so tightly that it was shaking slightly. Madame Hooch gave a long, shrill whistle, and I kicked off the ground, 13 other brooms doing the same. A split second later, the game started. I decided that watching Quidditch was much more fun than playing it the moment Montague tried slamming into me. Clutching onto my broom for dear life, I spun out of control, shuddering to a halt mere feet in front of the spectators' stands. As I was climbing back onto my broom, I noticed Hermione, Harry, Dean Thomas, Neville, Luna, Sol, Black Star, Tsubaki and Patty holding up an enormous banner, decorated with a roaring Gryffindor lion, and the faces of me, Liz, Ron and Ginny. A small skull was situated in the top right-hand corner. I smiled, turning around to focus on the game. I can do this, I thought determinedly, zooming back into the fray. Harry's POV, and Angelina Johnson takes the quaffle. She's streaking down the pitch. Pity she still won't go out with me. Jordan. Professor McGonagall shouted sternly at Quidditch commentator Lee Jordan, best friend of the Weasley twins. Right, Professor. I was only joking. Yes, I was joking the last 15 times I said it too. Anyway, Angelina's streaking down the pitch. She dodges Kirk. She dodges Connor. And she scores, bringing the score to 10-0 to Gryffindor. And Kirk takes the quaffle. We're doing better than I ever hoped for. I commented to the Weasley twins, who had decided to join us in mock protest of Umbridge banning the three of us from Quidditch. Hermione started tugging urgently on the sleeve of my robe. Look at Maka, she said, suppressing giggles as she pointed at our friend. And Weasley saves the shot. Hold on a second, what's this? One of the substitute Gryffindor beaters seems to be having a bit of trouble with a bludger, Lee Jordan said, suppressing a snicker. Sure enough, at the opposite end of the Quidditch pitch in front of the Slytherin goalposts, Maka was chasing a bludger, the bludger doing everything in its power to stay as far away from her as possible. I could hear, very faintly, her shouts carried back to us on the wind. Where do you think you're going? You stupid ball. I'm supposed to hit you. Get back here, you little... That was when she noticed the Slytherin spectators laughing at her. What do you think you're laughing at? You little, pipsqueak-sized brats. She ranted menacingly. That shut them up instantly. Thinking of what she did to Excalibur back in Grimmauld Place, I cringed. Liz, meanwhile, was having a heated argument with the Slytherin keeper. Considering the fact that she kept touching her hair with one hand, she was ranting about shampoo again. I groaned. Me and my big mouth. Angelina zoomed determinedly towards the two.
Oh, Maka.
Focus on the bludgers attacking your team. Liz, stop arguing about shampoo and get to work, she bellowed at the two female beaters. Maka looked highly embarrassed, while Liz huffed in annoyance. They both returned to what they were supposed to be doing. Well, chuckled George. They certainly have us beat, don't they, Fred? That they do, George. Although, I've never seen a bludger frightened of a Quidditch player before, chuckled Fred. You don't know how scary Maka can be, grimaced the DWMA students, Harry and Hermione. That was odd, but Gryffindor team captain, Angelina Johnson seems to have sorted out her beaters. And Katie Bell takes the quaffle. The game continued. Katie, streaking down the pitch, the quaffle under her arm. Then, out of nowhere, a bludger came hurtling towards Katie. I can't look, said Hermione, who, of course, had her eyes glued on the scene unfolding in front of us. Out of nowhere, Liz appeared in between Katie and the bludger, gave her beater's bat a mighty swing, and crack! With a terrific smash, she sent the bludger into the ground, creating a crater the size of Buckbeak in the ground. Half the crowd, Gryffindors and Slytherins alike, roared in applause for this miraculous performance. The other half stared at the crater in terrified silence. What monstrous strength, I overheard Lavender Brown say to Pavarti Patil from the row in front of us. Blimey, Fred, said George, staring in awe at the crater, where Madame Hooch was now trying to revive the fallen bludger. I think she really does have us beat here. At that moment, the other bludger had decided to throw itself at Maka. Maka, determined not to mess up her job as beater, did a miraculous flip off her broom, allowing the bludger to zoom right past, and landed back on her broom, standing up. As the bludger came back for round two, Maka, whom was still standing on her broom, swung her bat at the bludger's smash. The bludger knocked the quaffle out from under Connor O'Brien's arm. Connor, being on the other side of the pitch, clutched at his arm in pain as the third chaser, Alicia Spinnet, snatched the quaffle. Yup, George, said Fred, staring in equal awe at Maka, who was still standing on her broom, speeding in hot pursuit of the bludger. They both have us beat. Maka, having realized that everyone was looking at her strangely, jumped into the air, landing in the normal sitting position on her broom. Ginny, who had been circling the pitch from on high, suddenly went into a dive. Malfoy, noticing what she was doing, charged after her in hot pursuit. The Seekers have seen the snitch. I repeat, the Seekers have seen the snitch, Lee Jordan said excitedly. At the last second, Ginny smacked Malfoy's hand away and swiped the snitch out of the air. The red and gold spectators roared in triumph. Gryffindor wins the match. 300-40. I repeat, Gryffindor has won the match. I cheered, joining in the others who had taken up the chant of Maka. Liz. Maka. Liz. Maka. Liz. Malfoy sneered. Thanks to our countless hours of training in the room of requirement, using chain resonance so many times had improved my sense of hearing. I could hear everything that Malfoy was saying to Ginny. Lucky catch, Weasley girl, he sneered, hovering in front of the teacher's stands. Of course, even you can make them every once in a while. I suppose you had to make up for your brother's lack of goal-saving skill. For your information, Malfoy, Ginny said coolly, my brother's done a much better job than your team's pathetic excuse for a keeper. Well, I suppose there are certain members of a team who have to pull their teammates' weight. Your freak show beaters did a poor job of pulling your brother's weight. Wouldn't, he never finished his sentence. For that was the moment when Liz's broom spun out of control, ramming into Malfoy, and sending them both crashing into the teacher's stands. Sorry, Professor McGonagall, Liz apologized, the crowd howling in laughter. She must have heard the freak show beater's comment. Hermione laughed, clapping with the rest of us. After the match in the hospital wing, Harry's POV. Oh, stop moaning, Mr. O'Brien. It's only a broken arm, grumbled Madame Pomfrey as she hurried by us. In case you were wondering why we were in the hospital wing, seeing as no one was hurt, we had come to visit Kid. Madame Pomfrey's keeping him overnight, said Maka. That's okay. We have to stay here until Kid wakes up. Kid doesn't know about Sis making the bludger go boom yet, said Patty while arranging the flowers we had brought him in a vase. There. Now it's symmetrical, she said triumphantly, leaning back in her chair to admire her handiwork. Very good, Patty, came a faint voice from the bed, making us all jump. Ron and I helped prop Kid up in bed so that he was sitting upright. Now could someone tell me why I'm back in the hospital wing? You passed out again, Liz explained. Well, it was more like, we came in for your daily checkup, you passed out, and Madame Pomfrey decided that you had to stay here overnight. Ah well, he said, sighing in defeat. He knew that he needed the bed rest. He wasn't getting any better, falling asleep more often than he used to. His broken limbs stayed defiantly broken, no matter what Madame Pomfrey did. He would sometimes wake up in cold sweat in the Gryffindor boys' dormitory, or he wouldn't wake up and he would start thrashing. When he did, Black Star and Soul held him down while I tried to wake him up. This was no surprise. Madame Pomfrey had deduced that he had been tortured with the Cruciatus curse, amongst other curses, and he had gashes that were made by a knife. These healed fairly quickly, but the scar of the Cruciatus curse hadn't gone away, leaving Kid's eyes hollow and worn down. So what did I miss? He asked, noticing my stares. The Quidditch match between us and Slytherin, said Soul. The two beaters landed themselves in the hospital wing yesterday during practice, so the team captain recruited Liz and Maka to fill in as beaters for the match. Taking turns, we gave Kid a play-by-play account of the match. From the moment they walked out onto the pitch, to the moment when Liz crashed into the teacher's stands, taking Malfoy down with her. These two are naturals, Ron praised warmly, making Liz and Maka blush. We both broke our beater's bat, said Maka, grinning. Angelina's not going to let us substitute again anytime soon. You must be joking, said Ron in disbelief. You should have seen yourselves. You were bloody brilliant out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Angelina made you 2 permanent reserves for the team. Better yet, she could just kick Coot and Peeks off the team. You know, make you 2 permanent beaters, he added under his breath, so as not to let said Coot and Peeks overhear him. There's no way I'm doing that again, said Liz flatly. The Slytherin keeper knew absolutely nothing about the proper usage of shampoo. His hair was sleeked back to the point that it just looked wrong. We all burst out laughing. This feeling, I thought to myself, watching my friends chatter and tease Kid, Black Star trying, without success, to sign his autograph, on Kid's face. It feels peaceful, relaxing with friends like this. I hope this peace will last a little longer. Little did I know that that peace was about to be rudely shattered, right in front of my eyes. Gryffindor beaters land themselves in the hospital wing in time for the big Quidditch match. So, Angelina recruits Maka and Liz to fill in as beaters. If I'm wrong on this one, and anybody gets mad at me using Alicia Spinnet as the third chaser, I forgot whether she had left by the 5th book or not. If she did leave, I can't remember the new chaser's name. If I'm right and Alicia is still there, disregard everything I just said about chasers. Kid, well, considering that I was barely mentioned at all throughout the entire chapter, no. Wednesday, depending on whether I finish all my homework. I still have 2 lab reports, a research paper, and 3 math worksheets due by Monday, and we mustn't forget the 2 tests on Monday either. Kid, if you have that much work to do, then why are you here? Kid, you talk too much. Page for some awesome stories. Until next time. I said that already. Exactly Liz and Patty were doing at school while the others were at Grimmauld Place? Well, now you can have at least part of your answer as we embark on the Thompson twins' holiday Hogwarts adventure. On with the chapter. Liz's POV. Hey big sis? Asked Patty, digging into her lunch. Do you think Kid will wake up by the time we get to see Maka and the others? I don't know, Patty, I said glumly. But at least we'll be there when he does wake up. Being left here does have some benefits. Liz, Patty, came a shout from the other end of the great hall. I looked up from my sandwich to see Dean Thomas sprinting towards us and skidding to a halt. I sighed, swinging a leg over the bench to stand up. Well, we didn't have anything better to do today anyway.
Smon Patty.
Patty giggled.
Okay sis.
Let's go find Torpor. Trevor, Dean corrected, leading us out of the great hall and outside into the courtyard. That too, said Patty. So, I said, munching on the rest of my sandwich. Who else have you enlisted to help find Neville's toad? Well, Neville, obviously, Dean said, counting off names on his fingers. Seamus, Colin and Dennis Creevy, Luna Lovegood, Cho Chong, you two, and me. Any particular reason why you need so many people? I asked as we rounded the corner, said people waiting for us. Because Filch said that if he found Trevor this time, he's feeding him to Miss Norris, said Neville nervously. The kitty? Asked Patty. Do toads taste nice to kitties? Probably not, but that feline will eat just about anything small enough, I said, finishing my sandwich. Why are you eating a sandwich? Asked Dennis excitedly. Because you pulled us out of lunch, I told the little hyperactive brat. Anyway, if we're gonna find Thomas, Trevor, corrected Neville. Whatever. If we're gonna find him, we need to fan out. Creevy boys and Neville, you take the east wing. Luna and Cho, take the west wing. Seamus and Dean, you've got the grounds. Patty and I will take the ground floor and the dungeons. Good luck. Figure out how to contact the others if you find the toad. I ordered, right? They all said, leaving to search their respective areas. What now, sis? Asked Patty. I want to check out Filch. See if he knows something, I said, pulling Patty inside again. Okay, let's go, she said, charging up the stairs. Patty? I said, tapping my foot. Yeah? She asked, stopping halfway up the stairs. Wrong way, I said, jabbing a thumb at the stairs leading down to the dungeons. Oh, she said, jumping off the stairs and landing neatly next to me. Once we'd gotten far enough down the stairs so that we were completely hidden from anyone in the entrance hall, Patty turned into a gun. You know the drill, Patty, I told the gun, hiding it in my hideous robes. Don't talk. Yeah, yes, sis, I know, said the gun. Now let's go. Fortunately or not, Filch was in his tiny, cramped office, staking files and muttering to himself when we reached the place. Thinks he can let the thing slime over everything it touches, leaving me to clean it all up, does he? The Gryffindor brat can think again. You'll eat well tonight, Miss Norris, he muttered, turning to dump the stack of files in a filing cabinet, spotting me in the process. You, what are you doing here? He snapped. Have you been sent for detention? Do I have the pleasure of chaining you to the celling by your pretty little ankles? This weirdo needs help. Not exactly, Mr. Filch, I said, keeping one hand on Patty. I'm looking for my friend's toad. Sources say that you might know where he is. Does my office look like a pet shop to you, cutie? He snarled, taking a step towards me. Why don't you take a seat in my office and we can make arrangements to find you a new toad? In the meantime, in one motion, I pinned him against his filing cabinet, the mouth of Patty's barrel resting on the back of his skull. I think you know perfectly well what I'm talking about, pervert, I said softly in his ear. And unless you'd like to pay for it with your life, I jabbed Patty harder into his head to emphasize my point. You'll take me to where you're keeping the toad. Now, I said, releasing my arm so he could move, but never moving Patty. Now walk, I commanded. And I wouldn't try running if I were you, I said, caressing the trigger. I'm a pretty good shot. Filch gulped and began to walk. Yes, ma'am. He led us into Snape's empty classroom and to a row of empty cages. That slimy blasted toad escaped. He cursed, wringing his hands. I jabbed Patty harder into his head, making him freeze. Where is he, Filch? I growled. I don't know, ma'am. It's like I said, he escaped. So please don't kill me, he begged. Not good enough, I said, frustrated, and I pulled the trigger. Filch collapsed to the ground, out cold, smoke steaming from his head. Patty transformed back into a human. That's not going to keep him knocked out forever, you know, she said. I know, I said while we jogged up the stairs back into the entrance hall. Which is why we need to hurry and find that toad. Sis, listen, said Patty, pointing at a group of sixth-year Hufflepuff girls. Did you see it? Came out of nowhere. Those poor patients in the hospital wing. But they have Madame Pomfrey to take care of it. I hope someone catches it and lets it outside. Toads are so gross. We looked at each other. Kid. When we reached the hospital wing, everything looked peaceful enough. Madame Pomfrey was changing bandages on Kid's arm. Hello, girls, she said cheerfully. Are you here to visit Kid? He's doing much better since the last time you were here an hour ago. Thanks, Madame Pomfrey, I said, but we're actually looking for Neville's toad. We overheard that he was spotted on this floor. Oh, the toad, said Madame Pomfrey. Yes, 2 Ravenclaw girls came by earlier asking about a toad. The toad was here a couple of minutes ago, but I chased it out. I think it made a right. Not waiting to hear any more of the story, Patty turned on her heels and charged down the corridor to the right. Wait, Patty. Thanks again, Madame Pomfrey, but I have to go now. We'll be back later to visit Kid. I called over my shoulder while chasing Patty. There he is. I see him, said Patty, pointing at the toad as it rounded the corner. She made a dive for him and snagged him before he could make his leap for freedom. Patty turned to me and gleefully showed me her catch. I caught him, sis. Trevor looked like any ordinary toad, I suppose. I don't know why Neville goes to so much trouble for you, I told the toad, or why his friends are good enough to help him. Patty shrugged. Ah well, I said as we made our way downstairs to the entrance hall, Neville and the others waiting for us. You know, someday you should meet Iruka, Trevor, cried Neville, holding out his hands for Patty to plop the toad into. You found him. Thank you so much, Liz, Patty. No problem, I said. I caught him, Patty said, grinning proudly. That's incredible, Patty, said Colin, holding up his camera. Can I get a photo? Not a chance, I said, dragging Patty back up the stairs. We have to go find Dumbledore before Filch wakes up. Wait, what? Asked Dean, stopping. Too late. I laughed, breaking into a run, Patty right behind me. We'll see you later. Yeah. I heard Dean say, shaking his head as he joined his friends for a late lunch. And the chase for the missing toad is over, I said, slowing down to a walk. Instead of also slowing down, Patty zoomed right past me. That was fun. But now I'm bored again. Let's go find Dumbledore, she shouted over her shoulder. I sped up from a walk to a jog. You're right. Then hurry up, sis. Yeah. I'm coming. Liz, good. Patty. Until next time.